Before we begin, the name at the top of the screen. The second home of Count Rattleberg, known as the Haunted Mansion. Counts are nobles ranked below dukes and marquises, but due to past mistakes, this family is very poor. They barely have enough money even to rent housing, let alone a second villa. Rusty gates, cracked cobblestones, oppressive darkness from wild, untrimmed trees, all of this really looked like a haunted house. Or at least it used to be. It was so until 2 weeks ago. Lucina tells her maid that they will go drink tea on the terrace, and this makes her F. Her friend caught her breath on the terrace. They follow her and their surprise only deepens. Before them opens a view as if enchanted, like a garden overnight transformed into a fairy tale kingdom, completely unlike what they remember, spacious and incredibly beautiful. Lucina smiled quietly and gestured for them to sit, inviting them to drink tea. As soon as they took a sip, the chatter ceased. In the silence of admiration they swallow that soft sweetness, as if wrapped in a silk blanket woven from living petals. The flowers, a smooth texture, slides down their throats like silk, carrying a deep but gentle flavor without the slightest tartness. One of the girls finally breaks the silence, eyes wide open, asking if Lucina can really afford such exquisite tea, and Lucina's lips curve into a smile as she says that this is the very same tea they always serve. Exclamations of admiration. Excited sighs ran across the table. Another friend shuddered and asked how it was possible, how from the same leaves came this ambrosia. Not that bitter liquid, and Lucina quietly, knowingly laughed, explaining that even poor quality tea can be transformed by the right brewing method. They're gay. The gaze shifted to the maid, an unfamiliar face, but curiosity quickly melted again into chatter while one friend. When they enter, someone throws out that it's not just about tea. Lucina changed everything. The garden, the manor, the very atmosphere, and demands to know what happened in just 2 weeks. Lucina says she is afraid, as if she has no right to speak. One of them protests, saying, "He told her not to tease like that," then froze and added that she shouldn't speak like that, asked since when she sounded like that, and Lucina's smile tightens for a moment. She glances at the maid and quietly rejoices in her thoughts. She managed to sound like a princess or something like that, and her friends have no idea how much effort she put in to prove it. Friends giggle and say it's all wonderful, but they still love her relaxed version more. Lucina laughs, genuinely happy, and admits that she really was perfect. She polished the whole Miss Fancy Pants Lucina image for the spring ball. It's her first debut. After seeing her friends off, her maid Celeste approaches and gently reminds her that she was told to brush her hair before dinner. Lucina turns around. Her face warmed, and suddenly she rushed into the maid's arms, exclaiming thanks. The maid pulled back and blurted out that hugging a maid is improper, and Lucina exclaimed that she knows but can't help it. She is just so happy. The tea part. Without her, the party would never have gone so well. The maid tries to break free and insists that Lucina let her go, but Lucina smiles, and in a normal voice asks to be allowed to touch her even for a moment. The maid throws her a look and asks where she learned such language. The phrase sounded as if she would have to relearn etiquette from scratch. Lucina raised her hands in surrender and pleaded just not that. To convince her, she quickly adds that she will stick to her lessons when they are in public. The maid raises an eyebrow and asks if she promises. Lucina gladly nods. As a result, Lucina nods gladly again. Sighing, the maid gives in, says fine, and again asks her to brush her hair. When the maid ran the brush through her long braids, she looked at her maid in the mirror and asked with interest why she chose to work in such a place. A girl in her place surely had many options. That's all, or at least it seemed so. Later, curiosity got the better of her, and little Ritsu googled maids on the internet. Kitchen, house, chambermaids, there were so many. A few days later, when her father returned home, she met him in her little maid's outfit, smiling from ear to ear. He smiled back, and her parents exchanged amused glances, muttering that after a long period of boredom she had recently become much livelier. All the color that had once faded in her world seemed to be returning again, and so Ritsuko became a true maid enthusiast. She directed her incredible mind to studying them, while also engaging a bit in other research. One day she decisively announced to her parents that she was going to study in England to become a maid. Years later, in her second year of study, she was again preparing to go to England to become a maid. In her second life, upon seeing a maid, something deep inside her awakened. Instantly. Suddenly everything flooded in. The plane crash, fragments of memories, and a clear realization in this new life. She was Celeste McMartin. She had been reborn in another world. This is N. Navels is a border town. This city is in a country called the Kingdom of Theolos. Probably this is another world. She had never heard of such a place. And this world. In this world there is magic, and more importantly maids thrive here, so finally she can become a real maid. In this world people grow up at 15, so for now she would have to trade secretly. But life was not on her side. Soon her mother died, leaving behind a letter. In it she apologized, regretted dying, and spoke of hope. She hoped that her daughter would forgive her for leaving her behind. Wrote that she was very sorry and wished to spend more time with her, if only to congratulate her on coming of age and on pursuing her dream of becoming a maid. Mother added that her daughter was probably surprised how she found out about all this, But she was a mother, you can never really hide anything from her. She confessed that she herself had once been a maid and that was how she met her father. And although she had never spoken about it before, the father was the heir to a county, so now he had probably already inherited the title. The letter and it all boiled down to two choices. She could go to her father and one day become a countess, or follow her own path and live as a maid, which she had always dreamed of. Whatever she chose, her mother wrote, "I will be proud of her." But if she chose to be a maid, she could do her own. She was asked for one last favor to become the best maid in the world. Tears welled up in Celeste's eyes as she read. They streamed down her cheeks until the words blurred. She exclaimed that she would become a maid. It had always been her dream, but only. As soon as she spoke these words, she noticed that the candle nearby went out. And without hesitation, she raised a trembling finger toward it, and at that very moment, the wick suddenly flared up, and light spread across the room. He froze, looking at this in disbelief. Magic? No, that could not be. It cannot be. All her life she was told she had no magic. So how could this be happening? She sank to the floor, her heart pounding, and the realization struck from within. If she lost control, if this strange power burst out suddenly, people could get hurt. To choose. Celeste cannot even imagine that in her pinky finger, there is more power than in all the mages of the kingdom combined. In other words, her incredible reserve of power and ridiculously precise control over it would make most mages faint from shock at once. A true genius always stands out from the crowd wherever they go. Celeste. Celeste tries to use fire and wind magic simultaneously, and she succeeds. She cannot believe that such complex things come so easily. Even seeing it with her own eyes, she cannot comprehend that she has so much magic, that power which. The power Celeste gained is such that at her will she could rule the world with an iron fist. They say power of such scale corrupts people's hearts and drags them into darkness that eternally whispers from within. With such might she could do anything, and therein lies the danger. This thought was tempting and corrupting, like the devil himself whispering in the ear. If she wished, this girl could destroy an empire. It was not about destruction, it was something much simpler, much purer. With such power, perhaps she really could become the best maid in the world, so she made her choice, to transform this gift, this dangerous power into her own, special maid's magic, and so began the tale of the maid of all maids. Once again gathering the resolve to become a maid, she changed the color of her hair and eyes and left the town. This Count Cloudbart, the estranged father her mother wrote about in the letter. If by some miracle he hires her as a servant, as soon as he recognizes her, he will immediately forbid her from this job. After such a long absence, she doubts that he is even looking for her mother, but it's better to be safe than sorry. That's the level of mathematics. Usually such magical skill is impossible, but she does it instinctively and actually just bends the light with magic around the hair, so it won't even be damaged. Meanwhile, two knights come to the mayor's residence. One of them, tall and calm, calls himself Sable, gestures to the companion beside him and says, "This is Lect the mayor." But frowning with worry, he cautiously asks what brought the two knights of Count Legend Bart to such a small town as theirs. Sable sternly whispered for him to keep it secret, took out a photo of Celeste's mother, and said she was being sought by order of his lordship. Recognition. Understanding flashed across the mayor's face, and he whispered that her name was Selena. Sable immediately leaned forward and asked if he knew her. The mayor nodded and said there was no doubt the woman in the photo was Selena. Sable's eyes lit up. Finally they found her, now they could finally bring good news to his lord. But suddenly the mayor's expression changed, his face darkened, and Sable. They immediately ask what that look means and if he is hiding something from them. The mayor hesitates, lowers his eyes and admits that Selena died, explaining that about half a year ago a disease swept through the town, and mumbles "app." He apologizes then somewhat boldly, asks why the count is looking for her this time. Lect steps forward and warns that this must not leave this room. Many years ago Miss Selena and his lord were madly in love, but the previous count forbade them to marry because of her low birth, but the count still loves her. And as soon as that previous count died 5 years ago, he rushed to search for her all over the world, and the mayor mumbles. He mumbles what it means that Celeste is, but he doesn't manage to finish because both knights freeze and demand to know who she is. He confesses that she is Selena's daughter, and this raises a storm of questions. Selena got married, whose child is she then, how old is she, what does she look like, stammered the mayor. From his answers a face emerged, 15 years old, blue eyes like her mother's and hair of a rare silvery color. The two knights exchanged a sharp glance, realization flashed between them. Later. Here in the neighboring country of Tren de Velas, after hours of searching and finding nothing, they piece together the little they know. Such silver hair stands out anywhere if no one. No one has seen her, she left long ago. Sable remembers the mayor's last words. She left to drown her sorrow, hired a stagecoach heading west. That was 2 days ago. Now she is probably somewhere in Tren de Velas lost in. In the crowd, Sable mutters under his breath that she can't be mistaken for anyone else, then quickly mounts his. He jumped into the saddle, ordered Lechtel to head west and catch up with her, commanded to return home and report everything to the Count. Lechtnev. He never imagined it would unfold like this. The Count must be informed immediately, but the very thought of bringing such grim news tightens his chest. Poor Lady Selena as he goes. Walking down the noisy street, he notices a girl standing alone looking lost. Worried, he approaches and asks if she is all right, when there is. Their eyes meet, something in him freezes for a moment, but her black hair confuses him and he does not recognize her. Celeste whispers that she is trying to get to the capital but doesn't know where to board, and he points. He points the way and she flashes him a bright, grateful smile before hurrying away. He stands there. He freezes for a moment, watching her go and wondering if she is traveling alone. It's a government carriage, he reminds me. Reminding himself that she would be safe, pushing that thought aside, he pulled himself together. There was no time to waste. The Count had to be informed and he had to return to the capital immediately. Later, she rides in the same carriage with a neatly dressed man who says that the idea of the public carriage service was invented by the heir to the throne himself, the prince. They started working 7 years ago on this, although he first proposed it a year before that. She leans her. She threw back her head in surprise. The heir to the throne was her peer, so he was only 6 then. Wow, she laughed lightly. There really are amazing people in the world. Manchuk. She giggles quietly and says she really knows a lot of interesting things. He admits that talking with her was pleasant and that he is glad they sat together. When he politely asks, her name is, she answers hastily, Melody. She thinks it's better to be safe and wave. She lied to the townspeople about where she was going, changed her appearance, and if she now gave her real name, all her efforts would be wasted. The man leaned back and remarked on how incredibly smooth the ride was. The road. The roads here are just terrible, yet the carriage barely shook at all. He was amazed. He wonders how the coachman manages to handle it. Celeste sneaks a peek through the window and quietly mutters that it's time to reapply her magic. She whispers. She quietly whispers a spell under her breath so the carriage won't sway. The man asks if she said something. She instantly replies, "No, just glad the ride is smooth," but the motion makes her nauseous. Easy. When they finally reach the capital, the coachman is showered with praise for his incredible skill. The man turns to Melody and says, "You said you wanted to become a maid." He advises her to contact the trade guild. They help newcomers find work without recommendations. She thanks him with a warm smile and says it would be a great help. When she was leaving, he suddenly stands there with a half-raised hand, as if saying goodbye, and a sorrowful wish flashed through his mind. He would gladly arrange it himself, but his father would never allow it. Suddenly a voice called from behind, "Master Maxwell," and Max said they should leave. The Crown Prince was waiting for his report on the western roads, but the man stopped him. "Not so fast," he said. "Before they leave, he needs to inform whom he decided to accompany to the spring ball." Max exhales heavily, his voice full of fatigue, and says that he is not going to accompany anyone. When the man insists, Max's voice becomes stern, firmly refuses, and says he will only speak if he ever finds someone he truly wants to invite. Meanwhile, Celeste enters the guild and, looking at the board covered with job announcements, notices that all offers are only short-term. The trade guild is government-controlled. Initially, it gave loans for information and additional support only to members who paid annual fees, and about 6 years ago it began helping those who were not members. The job matching system is just one of its many services. She was offered a job as a laundress and housemaid. She likes both. But if she wants to become the best maid in the world, she needs to know how to cook, help young ladies with their toilette, and know how to receive guests. Perhaps she will even build a charming gazebo in the garden for tea drinking. She could invent her own line of cosmetics and create luxurious furniture. But the way this particular maid maniac imagines their work does not at all mean that it is beautiful. It was then that a woman came up and said that new announcements had arrived. Celeste brightened up. New vacancies could mean better opportunities. She looked through them, one for a cook, one for a gardener, and suddenly her eyes stopped on the announcement about, for a servant, a maid in a noble household. She froze. The position of a maid. Such positions usually require recommendations. But here it is exactly what she hoped for, and all the work is done, because the maid's name is written here. The game hints that this thing does everything by itself. Kitchen chores, laundry, cleaning, receiving guests, and all other necessary tasks. They are mostly hired by the lower nobility and middle-class burghers who cannot afford many servants. There is an incredible amount of work, but by status they are maids of the lowest rank, so the position is doubly hard. Managing the household alone is exhausting but possible, while managing a noble estate is unthinkable, and yet the Rudelbergs offer exactly such a position, which creates a small but noticeable problem. As if it were an impossible mission, no matter how much she stared, but Celeste's hands tremble with excitement. This is wonderful, this is perfect, exactly the position she was looking for. Without hesitating for a second, she rushes up to the woman and says she wants to apply for this vacancy. When Celeste walks away, the woman looks after her and quietly says she hopes the senior maid in the Riddleberg estate is a good person. Then suddenly she froze. Realization suddenly overwhelmed her, and she turned to her colleague, asking if everything was still the same. The colleague nodded and said yes. The poor maid who previously took care of the house injured her back and can no longer perform her duties. Although the Rudelbergs are nobility, they cannot afford to hire someone with good recommendations, and finding anyone willing to work there will be extremely difficult. Horror tightens her throat at the very thought. She cannot believe she just sent a smiling, even a novice, straight into what might turn out to be a trial by fire. Meanwhile, Celeste stands before the tall gates of the estate and looks up at the shaded house. A chill runs through her. Could ghosts live here? But then Anna's smile broke Celeste's hesitation, and she thought to herself that this is such a 10. This is a real opportunity. She must be hired here at any cost. If this is the main entrance, then the service entrance must be nearby. Just as she begins to look for it, the sound of footsteps makes her sharply turn around. A girl approaches her and asks, "Who are you?" For a moment, Celeste freezes at her own beauty, but the feeling quickly passes. She pales when she notices her tangled strands, dull skin, and worn dress. However, she instantly dismisses this thought. Now is not the time to focus on appearance. Celeste straightens up and tells the woman that she came because of a job advertisement from the trade guild, introducing herself as Melody. The woman notes with surprise that it was only posted yesterday, but quickly recovers and invites her to talk in the dining room. Celeste took her by the hand and led her to the front entrance. On the way, she noticed that servants usually enter through the back door, but Lucina smiled and insisted that it was fine if she has permission. It is not a problem at all. Lucina looked at her and introduced herself, quickly adding that she knows, although she does not look like it, that she is the daughter of a count. Celeste swallowed when she realized this is her boss. Lucina says she will bring tea, but Celeste quickly protests. "I cannot allow a noblewoman to serve me." Lucina just smiles and insists that it is fine. She always makes it herself. In the original story, the heroine is saved by a man in a hood who firmly warns her, "Do not go unprotected." He took off the hood and turned out to be the heir to the throne, saying he could not leave her like that. And on a side, this event was supposed to start as a secret meeting where the crown prince seeks the heroine. Could this really work even without the heroine? Then suddenly she froze. She looks intently at Celeste live. Suddenly realizes something shocking. This girl, like Lucien did a few hours earlier. Celeste asked Lucien if it was really worth taking a break, and Lucien insisted that everything was fine. Preparations for moving into the dormitory were still ongoing, and today was the only day she could give her a rest, so she asked to take it as a break for her sake, and so they said goodbye. When he was walking alone, Lucien wondered how to spend her day off. Then she accidentally bumps into a man and stains their clothes, which provokes a quarrel. Meanwhile, through Celeste's eyes, everything seems completely different. She heard about Lucina from Lady Anna and called herself a servant from the Marquis's house, because she was told that in Luther Berg's house there is a girl with incredibly black hair. Lucina modestly waved it off, saying it was nothing special, but Anna insists. When she saw that servant, the young lady, smiling, said that she was harassed, and Anna could not ignore it. Celeste then asks what exact duty she is responsible for, and Anna freezes. Then questions come one after another. Celeste asks if working in the estate brings her satisfaction, and does she also clean Lady Anna's room? What does she use to polish the handrails? Anna quickly stops her, improvising an excuse on the spot, and says that she cannot tell details about the family she serves. Celeste immediately sincerely apologizes. Anna replies that it's okay, the main thing is that she understands. Anna still wonders why. Why does Melody take the heroine's place in this event? This girl accidentally found herself in the same situation as the heroine. The attack during the ball also happened, although it did not fit into the game at all. The event still happened by itself. The meeting with Christopher also happened even without that person. Wait, then he said he bumped into a dark-haired servant. Anna asks if she happened to be at the Royal Academy on the day of the entrance ceremony and if she remembers whom she then encountered. Celeste fell silent and pondered when she recalled it. It turned out to be a man with black hair. Anna understood. So it was her, and that means the meeting really happened by itself. But at first, the heroine's role went to Melody. During the attack, she was replaced by Lucina, and this time Melody returned again. Are these stories substituting the missing heroine with other characters so that the events continue? If so, this is the worst possible scenario. This time it's just a date, but many scenarios are combat. Without the power of the saint nearby, if again some innocent passerby suddenly replaces the heroine's role. When Anna drifts away in thought, Celeste asks what happened. Anna says everything is fine. Anna reminds herself, since this is a game, alongside happy endings there are also bad ones. If the date does not take place, it will lead to a bad ending. If the player does not complete the date, the heroine will return home completely alone. Celeste says that from now on she will manage on her own and thanks Anna for today's help. As soon as she turns around, as if about to leave, Anna suddenly reaches out and grabs her by the hand. She hasn't yet realized what she is saying, but the words have already slipped out. "Will you go on a date with me?" Celeste froze. Anna instantly jumped back, raising both hands in panic. What did she just say? Why is she flirting? Embarrassed, Anna hurriedly tries to justify herself, explaining that she didn't mean that. She just wanted to say that they could spend time together after all. She is also alone today. Celeste silently looks at her for a moment. Anna tenses, sure she will be rejected now. But instead, Celeste gently smiles and says she is glad that Anna feels that way. And Anna instantly brightens, without hesitation grabs Celeste's hands again, and enthusiastically suggests taking a walk through the royal capital together to talk about maids as much as they want. And with that, here begins the Doki Doki Undercover Day Off date, at least that's what it's called. And the course of the date almost exactly repeats the events of the game. Suddenly Celeste stops in front of a shop and glances at the ice cream parlor. Anna says that it is currently a very popular dessert cafe in the capital. Today is exactly 100 days since its opening, and they are celebrating with a sale. Everything is half price. Anna knows this only because it happens exactly on the day of the date in the game, and Celeste cannot help but notice. Selling ice cream in something that is essentially a medieval world is truly impressive. Celeste notices that the cafe is full, but Anna quickly says it's okay, they can still have a good time while waiting. Celeste nods in agreement and adds that during the wait they can calmly discuss maid matters. Anna freezes, screams inside, but must somehow endure this conversation. Celeste thoughtfully turns to her and says she considers it indecent to expose skin above the knee. In her opinion, a maid's uniform should always be a long skirt. Anna instantly boldly objects, asks not to underestimate the power of Zeddy Ryuki, and confidently states that she will definitely find a short skirt uniform that will perfectly suit Celeste. Anna had much more fun in the royal capital than she expected. Partizia, the royal palace, stands in the very center of the city, and from there first stretches the royal quarter, then the noble district, and later the commoners' quarter. So both in the noble and commoner districts, the closer to the center, the higher the wealth and status. This event also became an occasion for the heir to the throne to inspect the district himself. That day the player was led through the upper, middle, and lower parts of the commoners' district in exactly that order. The ice cream shop is an establishment in the wealthier upper part, and then the visit to the middle part will be. At the bustling market of the capital, Anna asks Celeste if she has ever been to this part of the city. Celeste honestly admits this is her first time. Anna says in surprise that she did not expect this, was sure that Celeste had already run through all the markets of the royal capital. Celeste explains that shopping in the middle part of this district is simply not an option for her because, in fact, a maid from the count's house should neither suit nor afford to buy goods intended for ordinary people. Celeste adds that the road from here is straight, though a bit far. Anna asks if she is not mistaken whether Celeste is the only servant of the Lotharberg house and if they plan to hire another. Celeste replies that they are currently hiring, and suddenly Anna gets an idea. She quickly asks if allowed to recommend someone as a servant. Celeste replies that they are currently hiring, and suddenly Anna gets another idea again. She thinks that it would benefit both Melody and Lucina, so the proposal seems wonderful, but Celeste thanks and gently declines. Anna blinks in surprise and blurts out why. Celeste says it will probably hit their budget hard. Anna falls silent, understands that a person working in a prestigious estate will naturally ask for a higher salary due to their status and skills. She immediately apologizes, admitting that she did not think it through completely. Celeste reassures her and says that everything is fine. Anna thinks that she was only trying to help. Celeste adds that she did not agree to this walk because she needed help. She is simply very grateful that Anna takes such good care of her. Anna blushes. Celeste smiles so sincerely without any deceit. She is truly kind and she looks exactly like a heroine. Anna does not even suspect that she herself is this heroine. Then they had a wonderful time together. The market gradually quieted down, the streets bathed in morning light, and the stalls were covered with handmade goods. Anna asks if Celeste wants to buy souvenirs. Celeste thinks about what could be a good gift for a young lady, and Anna gently suggests thinking about something for herself as well. At that moment, the shop owner warmly invited them inside. Anna froze and thought, is this exactly where the story continues? In the game, this is the same scene where the heroine stops in front of the shop, where in the window lay a ring with a blue stone that caught her attention because its color reminded her of her mother's eyes. After the death of her mother, her life was turned upside down. In turbulent times, she was suddenly taken in by a man who called himself her father. The ring became a memory of her mother and a small comfort in the struggle with her new identity in life. She later gave this ring to the royal heir, telling him the story of her mother, which brought them closer and raised his intimacy level. But what affects her most is one thing. Why is Melody looking at that ring right now? There is an episode in the game where the heroine stops in front of a shop because of a ring with a blue stone that caught her eye. The color so reminds her of her mother's eyes. Then began a turbulent period after her mother's death, when she was suddenly taken in by a man who called himself her father. The ring becomes a thread of comfort for her in the struggle with her new identity and life. Later, she will give it to the crown prince, telling him about her mother, and this will bring them closer and increase his intimacy level. But what unsettles her is something else. Why is Melody looking at that ring right now? She cautiously asks what caught her attention. Celeste giggles and says she is looking at a doll. She is so cute. Anna follows her gaze, a little surprised, and sees a doll with brown hair and blue eyes. Celeste thinks the doll looks like her mother. Anna thinks that this time it is not a ring but a doll. The thing is different, but the scenario is more or less the same, right? She quickly blurts out to her, "Can I give her this doll?" Celeste looks a little surprised. Anya immediately, with a sparkle in her eyes, suggested, "If so, let's buy each other a gift." Anna notices another doll with silver hair and blue eyes. It vaguely resembles the heroine. She confidently says she wants to be a couple with Celeste. After that, Anna asks to first look at the food stall, and Celeste agrees but wonders silently if they are buying souvenirs again. Anna replies that these things are not for them, they are gifts for those to whom they are being taken. Celeste asks where exactly, and Anna smiles and says they are heading to a shelter in the lower district. The Doki Doki undercover date continues, and the last stop will be the shelter in the lower part of the commoners district. Why the shelter? Because, besides romance, it is also a way for the heir to the throne to see with his own eyes what is happening in the capital. He persuaded the heroine to keep him company because he thought he would finally see with his own eyes what the capital really is, from which he had been protected all this time. But Anna is not the heir to the throne and did not come incognito to check the city, so she had to come up with another reason to visit the orphanage. Outside the walls of the shelter, Celeste watches the children and says that they are very lively. Sister Annabelle smiles and says that Anna hasn't visited for a long time, and the children were eagerly waiting to see her again. Anna confessed to Celeste that she actually came here to meet someone, and Celeste looked around. The building looks more like a small school, and behind it stands a church, so probably the institution is also under the care of the church. And as Anna said earlier, the shelter now receives financial support from the kingdom. Later, Anna returns and says that perhaps it's time for them to leave. But Celeste gently replies that she would like to talk a little more with Sister Annabelle. Before leaving, she feels that the children also want to play with her. She hadn't even uttered a word when the children rushed to her and hugged her tightly. Their love simply overflowed. Celeste softly claps her hands and says, "Anna is very popular among the children, isn't she?" Sister Annabelle smiles and agrees, watching how naturally Anna gets along with them. Anna explains that for these children she is also considered a friend of the goddess of luck, who protects their shelter. It all started 3 years ago. A few years before that, their subsidies were mistakenly cut, and when they were at their hardest, prices in the capital were only rising no matter how much they cut expenses. It was barely enough even for one meal a day for everyone. Celeste whispered that it was terrible, but Annabella reminded that it was then that Anna came to the shelter and said she brought them food. Of course, this did not solve the root cause of their problems, but they were incredibly grateful finally. After so many difficulties, they had a normal meal. Celeste felt that Anna was always there in the toughest moments and began to understand why the children adored her so much. Then Annabelle continued the story and explained that very soon after that, already the next day, a noble lady visited the shelter, a young representative of the Honorable House of Victrium, Lady Anne-Marie. Usually a noble does not come anywhere without notice, but Lady Anne-Marie appeared so suddenly, as if it was quite usual, and brought a bunch of supplies and exactly those they lacked, as if she already knew the whole matter. Before she even managed to look at another box of supplies, she had already left earlier with a mark of presence. Celeste asks if this means that everything in the shelter now is from her. Annabelle replies that yes, exactly as she saw. And a few days later, an inspector was sent from the kingdom, thinking that it was just one event after another and she wouldn't even have time to be scared. But he soon discovered that their subsidies had been appropriated by corrupt nobles, so he immediately set about plans for reimbursement and recalculation of aid. Celeste thinks that Anna has probably already reported to Lady Anne-Marie, or perhaps it was Lady Anne-Marie herself who sent Anna here to investigate. In any case, she understands that it is not her place to interfere, although a small question still gnaws at her curiosity. She returns to Anna and asks with interest why they consider her the goddess of luck. Wasn't it Lady Anne-Marie who provided the most material assistance? Anna smiles quietly and replies that it is precisely because of that. On the day of her arrival, she told everyone that she loves stories with a happy ending, and she does not like stories that leave a bitter taste in the mouth. She says that if it were a book she was reading, she would be sure it would end happily. The words of the young girl deeply resonated in the hearts of the children. And already the next day, after Lady Anne-Marie's visit and the establishment of subsidies, as if she had foreseen it, luck began to return to the shelter. She does not even suspect that she completely ignored the game's plot. The shelter was supposed to be saved after her visit today. She could not just leave everything as it was then. How many of these children would not be here if she had done nothing 3 years ago? After all, she does not think she acted wrongly, but still she cannot deny she interferes too much and changes the story. Perhaps the heroine has not appeared yet precisely because she got so caught up in her role, and she does not even realize that the true main heroine is now enjoying the role of a servant. A small child notices that Anna is lost in thought and asks what happened. Anna quickly returns to herself and says that nothing, she just remembered a small mistake from the distant past. The child says that in the end everything will be fine, and when Anna looks puzzled, adds confidently that since this is her story, it will definitely have a happy ending. Then a little boy steps forward and agrees. It would be bad otherwise, right? There must be a happy ending or nothing. Anna looks at them kindly. Yes, that is exactly what she thinks. Although the story has changed so much, it does not mean that everything must end badly. As long as she does not marry the villain from the game and continues to follow her heart, she sincerely believes that she will be able to reach a happy ending. When they left the shelter, Anna sincerely thanked Celeste for spending the day with her. Celeste smiled and replied that she was the one who should be thankful she had a lot of fun, so Anna suggested, since they were already here, to climb to the very top of the church. Celeste agreed but asked hesitantly if they were really allowed to be here like this. Anna smiled, assured her that everything was fine, and said to follow her. Later, Celeste and Anna stood at the top of the church and looked at the breathtaking view with admiration. Anna thought that this was not part of the original plan for today. But since the event seemed to be coming to an end, she saw no reason not to enjoy the moment in the story. The day was supposed to end at the shelter. Then several months would be spent resolving problems there and bringing those who embezzled to justice. And only when everything was settled would the heroine and the crown prince return. And it would be then that he would invite her to see this panorama, because he would be worried that she might still harbor sadness. When Sister Anna and the children got along like a real family, she remembered those times that she would never be able to experience alone again, and a melancholic smile appeared on her lips. Celeste turned to her with the same melancholic smile, and sincerely thanked her for bringing her to such an important place. For a moment, Anna's gaze changed. The scene overlapped with another, and for a second she thought that Celeste was the same heroine. She could not believe that she had almost mistaken Celeste for the heroine. When Celeste returns to the manor, Lucina rushed into her arms, joyfully greeting her return with an excited embrace, and Celeste quietly sighed and again reminded her that a noble lady should not so carelessly embrace a servant. But Lucina, as always, paid no attention to this and instead asked how Celeste had been received. Celeste exclaimed enthusiastically, "It was incredible." Then she added that she had brought a small souvenir for her lady. With a gentle smile, she asked her to close her eyes and extend her right hand. Lucina obeyed. When she opened her eyes again, a beautiful ring shone on her finger. Celeste said that it was not too luxurious, but Lucina sincerely thanked her and admired the sapphire with delight, calling it truly beautiful. Celeste quietly confessed that the stone reminded her of her late mother's eyes. This color was warm and soothing, like a support for her dreams and future. And when she saw the ring, it seemed to her as if her mother was still watching over her after so many years. Lucina quietly asked if that meant she should keep it for herself. Celeste immediately shook her head. That was exactly why she wanted Lucina to have it, so she could watch over her just as her mother watched over Celeste. Celeste says that she might not want to accept the ring, her mother is already nearby, but Lucina quickly objects. No, she is truly happy to receive it. Then Celeste, as if in passing, asks about dinner preparations. Lucina freezes. Meanwhile, a woman with a frowning face approached Anna and said that she seems to be in a better mood, and Anna exclaimed, "There she is, I've been looking for her everywhere." Clarice looks at her with distrust. She cuts in that she has been looking for Anna all this time. Anna covers her ears and says that maybe it's just bad luck that they keep passing by each other. Clarice sharply asks if she even hears herself, accusing her of constant excuses. Anna calmly replies that a proper servant should not raise her voice like that. Clarice sighs heavily. Then she asks if she at least had fun. Anna smiles and replies that the day was truly eventful and brought her great joy. Clarice exhales, thinking that she can no longer just allow her to smile like that. She gently tells Anna that while preparations for the academy's opening are underway, it is better for her to temporarily give up her little walks. Anna nods and agrees, then asks if there are any changes in the meeting planned for tomorrow with Prince Christopher. She feels they need to discuss so much. And even if the world no longer follows the game's plot, she will never allow it to end badly. Their goal is a happy ending, not just to fulfill her role in this world but also to honor her personal vow. She can promise this, but the very word promise always awakens something in the corner of her mind. At first she could not remember this, then suddenly she jumps up, eyes wide with horror, and the memory clicks into place. Clarice immediately asks what happened. She exclaims that it cannot be and quickly asks for a pen and paper. What she did not do is an absolute disgrace. She cannot believe that she completely forgot to make the tight, custom-made uniform for Melody. Clarice froze and asked in shock what she just said. She nodded decisively. Yes, exactly. Without it, there would be no happy ending. No one else could create it, no one. She begins mumbling ideas aloud. Should the stockings be black or white? Maybe add garters for a bold touch, or a hairstyle that reveals her delicate shoulders. The perfect balance to emphasize both the elegance of the top and the charm of the bottom. She almost clearly sees it in her imagination. She turns to Clarice with a bright smile and asks what she thinks. Clarice trembles, barely restraining her anger, decisively cuts her off. Pervert, meanwhile. A small child returns to the orphanage and joyfully greets Annabelle, exclaiming that she is back, and Annabelle smiles and offers some fruit. They still have some. The child says that today she was at the trade guild but did not find work and must start earning as soon as possible for the orphanage. Annabelle is glad that she wants to help, and again offers fruit. They still have some. Annabelle asks if she wants fruit. They still have some. But she is still only 9 years old. She should not already be thinking about work, about what will happen when she grows up. How does that sound? The child is noticeably confused and whispers in a quiet voice that if she waits too long, it will already be too late. Where is this? She was just at the hospital with that child. But why did her body become childlike? Then she wonders how that child is doing in the hospital. It couldn't have been that they brought her here along with what is most precious to her. She falls silent, suddenly realizing that she cannot remember her granddaughter's name. If she is not careful, even memories might completely fade. The only memories that were clear are the memories from her middle school. They are vivid. Does this mean something is wrong? As if she has become a child again. And suddenly a shadowy figure appeared in the dark alley, catching her attention. The restless one suddenly grabbed her by the hand and started pulling her away, saying that it is dangerous here and they need to leave. And she wonders, is he trying to save her, but why? The man says that the crying child must be protected, because that is what his mother and father taught him. She barely had time to get a good look at his face before he left her at the shelter and disappeared without a trace. Thus Kurita Meika ended up in the orphanage, and after a few days realized that this world is the same one she once played in. Meanwhile, Lucina is glowing with excitement. Her mother reminds her not to forget anything, and Lucina assures her she won't forget. The mother jokingly asks who at the acceptance ceremony forgot their certificate. Lucina narrows her eyes and addresses Celeste what kind of servant is reporting on her to her mother. Celeste smiles and replies that the lady's daily report is, of course, part of the servant's duties. She sincerely apologizes. Lucina pouts and mutters that the daughter of the house where she serves has problems. Why is she so arrogant? Melody is 15 years old. In her past life she was Japanese and was reincarnated as the heroine of the autumn game Silver Saint in 5 Oaths. For better or worse, the girl knew nothing about the game and stubbornly pursued her dream of becoming a maid, which she brought from her previous life. Thanks to Melody's influence, Lucina once again avoided tragedy, but the game's plot has just drastically changed. Meika, who had just learned about this world, did not yet realize that everything had already changed, but that is a story for another time. Lucina's father waved it off. She was exaggerating. The academy hastily organized dormitory security. In this school, places for ordinary students are free, but for the nobility paid, and for the Lotter family, these are considerable expenses. They must preserve the family's dignity, so they will have to pay. He advises Lucina, as soon as you enroll, make full use of the dormitory. She frowns slightly but replies that she understands, although the logic of it is not yet entirely clear to her. Her mother looks worried and tells Melody that Lucina will be left in her care. Melody politely nods and confirms that everything is ready and in place, adding that nothing has been lost unless the little lady has forgotten something again. Lucina instantly blushes and sharply asks not to mention the incidents from 2 months ago again. The mother sighs heavily. Despite everything, they still have not hired a new servant. The father admits that he hoped at least one would have been found by now. However, so far thanks to Melody, there are no urgent problems, and meanwhile Celeste reports that the carriage is already prepared. The girl steps forward and says that she has received instructions and wishes Lucina a safe journey. Lucina's mother quietly remarks that no matter how many times she looks at her, she still does not look like a doll. Celeste responds gratefully, yes, that girl was created by Melody. A magical doll, into which a real personality was breathed. The use of alter ego magic was conceived from the idea that started with the doll previously given to her by Anna, because they did not find a new servant in time and this solution was enough. So alter ego magic was applied through artificial intelligence, and thus the girl's personality was formed. Melody's magic was too powerful for a doll made of fabric and threads, so deep in the forest she found a silver pedestal that for some reason strongly attracted magic, and she stole, or rather, borrowed it to make it the heart of the doll. That pedestal was supposed to bind the demon lord, but Melody did not even suspect this. And then they created the girl. Even then, something happened that Melody did not expect. She wonders why Selena turned out to be exactly like her mother, but does not have time to focus on this for long. Lucina tells her to look and shows. She transformed the received ring into a pendant to wear it discreetly under her uniform when she goes. Celeste is noticeably moved and says that she will then impose artificial sensitivity on the ring. Although the uniform has a protective spell, it's better to be safe. But Lucina immediately asks her to stop, and when Celeste asks why, she explains that although magic is convenient, she is afraid of becoming dependent on it. Even at home she brews tea herself. Celeste insists, really? Right, in response that instead she should prepare it, and promise that you will make the most delicious tea in the world. When Lucina serves her water, Celeste freezes and asks, when did this happen? Water was drawn. Lucina replies that she drew it from the local well yesterday and assures it is fine. Don't grimace like that, this water is perfect for brewing in a cast iron teapot. She asks for a spell to refresh it. Lucina's. Her eyes opened wide in surprise. She can do magic. She asks, unable to hide her amazement. Celeste nods and says that her tea will be ready. Celeste nods and says that her tea will be ready. The percentage of dissolved oxygen matters, so the best water is freshly drawn from a well in clean air. When hot water fills the kettle, tiny bubbles of dissolved air start the movement of water, through which the tea leaves gently rise and fall. This is called jumping, and it extracts the tea's flavor more effectively. When Lucina takes a sip of tea and cannot hide her surprise. She exclaims that it is so tasty and asks if it is even the same tea. She had always secretly hated this cheap tea they drink, but now the taste and smell are completely different. Lucina did not think long. She decided it was just about the brewing technique, and asked if Celeste wanted that job. Celeste enthusiastically replied that she did, which made Lucina smile and promise to arrange everything immediately. But before she manages. But here Celeste, in a quiet voice, asks if she could talk to the housekeeper about her duties, and Lucina simply froze on the spot because of this. Lucina asks in a voice if she did not know, to which Celeste blinks in surprise and asks what she means. Embarrassed, Lucina explains that the thing is there would be only her there. Celeste, still confused, asks if that means there is only one position or if others also applied for it. Lucina quickly shakes her head and explains. She stated that there would be only her, the only maid, the only servant, period. Celeste looks at her in disbelief, her voice quiet from confusion, and almost to herself repeats that it would be only her. Lucina is convinced that she will refuse and is about to lecture her. In the capital, there is an educational institution, the Royal Academy of Higher Learning. Noble children must study there for 3 years, starting at the age of 15. Lucina Rudelberg was no exception. She was also admitted to the academy this year. Her parents were supposed to go with her to the capital, but due to problems in their region, they sent her alone, staying behind to wait. For her, that house was like a haunted house. The only one who worked there was an old maid, and soon even that maid, God, left alone she can. She persuaded herself that everything would be fine. At home, she always did the household chores herself. Food. The food that Lucina prepared tasted disgusting, and because of that pile of dust around her, Soon she fell ill. It was then that Celeste asked her if she was feeling unwell. She asks if that means all the household chores will fall on her, but Lucina reassures her. Of course not, just do as much as you can. One of the reasons she came to the academy is to learn how to build real relationships with people. She wants to be able to look others in the eye without resorting to tricks, and Celeste smiles gently, saying she considers this an admirable attitude. But she is unable to remove the protective magic from the clothing. This spell is their last shield they can rely on. Lucina adds that at the academy she would like Celeste not to abuse magic, and Celeste froze for a moment. She understood that this request was also part of Lucina's training, and Lucina confirmed it. Celeste agreed, thinking that she herself would rather fulfill her duties without relying on magic. Lucina mentally realized that she was already used to using magic. If Melody starts using her power without limits at the academy, no one can predict the consequences. Honestly, if she had just told Melody directly that her magic is a bit too strong, everything could have been resolved much more simply. In the very heart of the towers of the royal capital Thealaz stands the royal palace, and next to it the Royal Partisan Academy of Higher Education, simply known as the Royal Academy. How is it possible an institution through which many people pass daily, even commoners, can stand right next to the palace? But don't be surprised, that's how everything is arranged in this world. So in just 2 months, a student dormitory grew on the site of part of the school garden. Part of the garden was cut down, and buildings were quickly constructed. Dormitories are divided into 3 sections by gender and social status. The school traditionally does not place much importance on the social status of students, but different lifestyles make separate sections necessary. In the public space, a free facility, there is a dining hall with free breakfast and dinner, and a simple kitchen for personal use. A 3-story building divided by years of study. Freshmen live on the first floor, knights, baronets, and barons with count houses have access to selected restaurants and a real kitchen for private meals. There are also 3 floors where higher ranks live upstairs. Counts, dukes, and royal families also use selected restaurants, etc. And among the 3 buildings, this is the most luxurious, a multi-story building with the top floor reserved for the royal family. And so for the landowning county of Lotenberg, which is not very wealthy, this is the 2nd floor of the noble bedrooms, and Lucina says it is much larger than her own room. Celeste says that compared to her parents' house, there is nothing surprising. The Lotenberg house has been in their family for generations. Lucina thinks she mentioned this before, but her great-grandfather made a mistake, got into debt, and because of this gave away most of his lands. Celeste says, no way. She replied, exactly, he sold almost all the family land. The conversation is suddenly interrupted by a maid who enters the room and introduces herself as a maid of the Nvidia family, living in the neighboring room. She explains that the young lady of the house wants to send her greetings and sent her to convey this, and Celeste notices that the maid looks elegant and cold. Soon, the daughter of the Nvidia family entered personally and introduced herself. Lucina responded, also introducing herself formally. Later, During tea, Lucina sincerely admits that on the first day of moving into the dormitory she was terribly nervous, so she is immensely grateful to Luna for inviting her. Luna smiles and tells her to just call her by her name, without any formalities. The tension slowly melts away as they start a simple conversation. After that, Lucina flopped onto the sofa and sighed dramatically, admitting that she had been incredibly tense. Celeste gently reassures her. As her governess, she is confident that Lucina did wonderfully. Lucina asks if she really has to speak so formally at the academy, and admits that it seems even harder to her than the actual studying. Celeste replied that probably everything will be fine, she is sure. The more time they spend together at school, the more naturally they will grow closer. Lucina thought for a moment, then looked a little hopefully, thinking that if so it really would be wonderful. As soon as the messenger finished the report, the Count dismissed him and remained alone. When the room finally quiets down, he thinks, the attacker has not been found yet. They ignored the orders of His Highness, the heir to the throne. Was it only because they could catch him, but more importantly, how did it happen that all the guards who were supposed to watch him simply fell asleep? And he thoughtfully supports his chin with his hand. This ball, he thinks, is taking on a much more interesting appearance than expected. The Crown Prince and his companion Anna have clearly become the center of attention, and Miss Lucina from the Lauder family has also attracted considerable attention. Her intervention to protect the Crown Prince has brought her wide recognition. Even the Prime Minister himself praised her. She methodically eliminated threats one by one. This event stirred the public, and in noble circles her name is rapidly gaining weight. But every time he looks at her, Selena appears before his eyes. He loves her and does not want to believe that she is no longer in this world. And although the girl before him does not have her golden red eyes, why does she evoke the same feeling? Again, he wants to see her and that silver-haired girl. At that moment, Lex enters and reports that new documents have arrived from the Prime Minister's office. He tells Lex to leave them on the table, but he himself hesitates and still stands in place. His thoughts involuntarily return to the previous conversation with Celeste. Once he asked her why she wanted to become a maid, and if, had she not been one, she would have preferred the life of a noble lady. If she had been born into nobility, she could not have been a maid. Perhaps she would have become a lady-in-waiting, a much more honorable position serving directly at the queen. If the Count learned the truth about Melody's existence, she would no longer be allowed to remain a maid. But if she continues in her current role, the secret will remain hidden. Yet when he offered her to become a lady-in-waiting, she refused without hesitation. She had never considered such an option. Being a maid was simply natural for her. He asked why, noting that both roles are connected with service. She explained that although their purpose is similar, their form differs, like a knight and a soldier. She said she became a maid for her mother, and if she was destined to remain one, she would strive to become the best maid in the world. She decided to devote herself to this goal completely and entirely. Hearing this, he smiled and remarked that she strives to become the best maid in the world. She answered without hesitation, and when the Count asked if there was anything else, he returned to reality again. He replies that there is nothing, bows respectfully and walks away, outwardly calm, but inside he is gnawed by a quiet feeling of guilt. Silently he hopes that His Excellency will forgive him. Asks him to wait a little longer for the sake of the young lady. Once upon a time. No, I'm joking, this is happening right now. There is a place where an elderly couple lives. The grandmother is preparing to leave and the grandfather is too worried about her. It would be normal if he went with her, but she stubbornly says that she is just going for an ordinary walk. She has not yet visited the Lotharberg house to greet them formally. The grandmother injured her back and took a leave from her position as a maid in the royal mansion in the capital. And now, when the pain has finally subsided, she is going there to officially resign and apologize. A letter of apology has already come from Count Lotharberg, and although the family was without money, they still sent financial compensation. She cannot ignore the kindness that the nobility showed. But returning after such a long absence makes her uneasy. It has been a month since she resigned, and she is troubled by the question of whether new maids have already been hired. The grandmother always worried about her former lady. The name Lotharberg resounds in the royal capital, and finding a replacement for a maid who gave them years is not easy, which is why the grandmother worked so many years despite the grandfather's fears. She has served here for almost 10 years and knows the way to the back entrance of the estate by heart, but when she arrives she freezes. The doors are clean and shining, not at all like the familiar worn entrance she remembers. She thinks anxiously. Has she begun to lose her memory? Celeste notices her and decides that she is a guest. The sorceress she sees is unfamiliar to her, so Celeste politely asks for what purpose she has come to the estate of Count Lotharberg. Having heard the explanation, Celeste smiles warmly and says that grandmother will be considered her senior maid. Suddenly, grandmother realizes this is the newly hired maid. Celeste asks to talk about previous duties before coming to the estate. Grandmother smiles and asks if she will take her to the estate, but Celeste says they are already here. Grandmother raised her eyes and froze in shock at the sight of that huge, flawless building. She wonders if this is really the estate of Lotharberg. It looks as if just built, and at that very moment Lucina appears. She freezes and smiles sincerely when she sees her grandmother. The last time her grandmother saw Lucina, she was worried. Now it is clear that her concerns were unnecessary. Later, when Grandma returned home, Grandpa could not believe his eyes. She was walking without a cane. She happily says that her health has improved. Grandfather smiles, feeling how long it has been since he last saw her smile. Without sadness, his heart feels lighter. Grandmother tells him stories about Celeste, and how Celeste once took a tired killer bear out of the basket. But Grandpa just couldn't keep up with the conversation. Lucina waits under the dormitory with a bag ready, and Celeste asks once again if she forgot anything. Lucina replies that everything will be fine. She checked everything carefully. But Celeste then asks if she really took everything out of the bag to be sure. Lucina looks away, a doubt flashes across her face, and she whispers that maybe it's worth checking again. Finally, the first day of school life. The Kingdom of Telos Academy originally started in April, like in Japan, but due to the attack it was temporarily closed, turned into a fully boarding system, and the new semester started again in June. Dormitories were built in the southeast of the academy, and the main building about a 10-minute walk north from them, when Lucina enters the academy, her eyes quietly wander around with quiet curiosity. The courtyard is full of noble children, but no servants are visible. Of course, at the academy, everyone has to take care of their own affairs. A light blush spreads across her face. A strange combination of determination and anxiety settles in her. Soon her attention is drawn to a small crowd near the board. Students lean in, whisper, and carefully examine the surface. Lucina realizes this must be the class distribution list. She hesitates for a moment and approaches closer, trying to quickly glance herself. But before she manages to look properly, Beatrice and Maleria appeared next to her. And as soon as Lucina saw them, her face immediately blossomed. A warm blush rose on her cheeks, and she quickly greeted them. She says that a lot of time has passed lately. There has been such a fuss that she couldn't find a free moment at all. Beatrice replies that because of that incident with the attack, she was also kept under house arrest for some time, and besides, she adds, as soon as May comes, they will have to learn the material for 2 months, and just the thought of it makes Lucina noticeably shudder. For a moment, her thoughts fly to how Celeste mercilessly tormented her with all that work for a month, and the very memory makes her silently stare at one point, while her friend quickly notices and says that she seems to be looking into the distance. Lucina is depressed. Lucina is depressed. Lucina immediately tells her, forget about it, first they should check their classes. That TTT. Finally, the three of them look at the distribution list and in a moment realize that they ended up in different classes. But the classes are not far from each other, so they quickly agree to still meet and have lunch together. Lucina has almost no other friends, so this promise gives her peace. Soon Lucina heads to her class, but as soon as she steps into the room she freezes in the doorway. Her eyes widen because inside 2 rows have formed, standing opposite each other and leaving a clear passage in the middle. For a moment she thought something strange was happening, but she hadn't yet managed to understand it. Whispers spread across the hall. Students were quietly talking about her, the fairy princess of the ball, the poor noble fairy. Lucina does everything to ignore the whispers and slowly walks forward. But the weight of others' gazes presses on her and makes her feel very uncomfortable eventually. She reached her assigned seat and sat down. Lucina turned around and saw Luna Escatak nearby. She exclaimed joyfully that she was very happy to sit next to her. Luna smiled politely and said she felt the same. Lucina smiled a little nervously and admitted that she had been nervous since morning. Luna looked at her with gentle admiration and whispered that Lucina's smile was so pleasant, almost healing. Hearing this, the tension that Lucina carried slowly released, and feeling relief, she happily gave a thumbs up. Luna looked at this gesture with curious eyes, and when Lucina realized what she had done, she instantly blushed and apologized, explaining that it was just her usual manner. Luna couldn't hold back and laughed, which only made Lucina's cheeks even redder. Luna laughs and immediately apologizes. I can't help it, you're just too cute. After a moment, Lucina hesitates and asks if they can speak more simply with each other. Luna smiles and easily agrees, saying that from now on they will meet every day. Just then His Highness Christopher enters the class together with Anna as always. Their arrival immediately attracted all eyes. Luna noticed that she hadn't noticed at all that these two were in the same class as her. She had been too busy with her own affairs. After a minute of silence, she suddenly asks Lucina if she also knows Lady Anna. Lucina asks how she knows that. Luna says that she also attended the spring ball, and since Lucina was the center of attention that day, she simply assumed that everyone standing next to the Air Prince must know each other. Lucina burns with shame at the very thought, could people really have been watching so closely? Luna quickly calms her down. Everything will be fine when these two are together. Attention will naturally be drawn to them. Lucina has to agree with this, but suddenly she is seized by another realization. That jealous girl from the ball is also in the same class. At the ball, the girls looks radiated hostility. Max told her that it was probably because she thought Lucina had stolen her spotlight. But now the girl looks at her with a slight smile, and Lucina tells herself that no real harm has happened yet, so probably there is no need to worry, and what can she even do against the Duke's daughter? Before she can think further, the classroom door opens and the teacher enters. He smiled and introduced himself. From today, he will be the homeroom teacher of this class. His name is Bigulus, and if it matters to anyone, the king himself gave him the title of Count. He openly says that among the students there are many whose families rank higher than his, but while they are in the academy, they are all just students, so no one has the right to complain without reason. Lucina quietly thinks that a rather strict-looking teacher has arrived, and worries whether her life at the academy will be okay. Vigella leans forward slightly and announces that today's schedule is just for student introductions, so there will be no lessons yet. From now on they will start with presentations. But before that, he seems to remind them of something. It is already June. Usually the academy holds midterm exams at the end of May. As everyone knows, they were not held this year. However, the academy already distributed textbooks to everyone in May. So starting now, they will hold a surprise midterm exam. Anxiety instantly enveloped the entire class. And so begins the first day of the students' new school life, while meanwhile Celeste finishes cleaning the dormitory. Then the laundry. Since it is shared by all student dormitories, it seems to her that maids from other mansions gather there. In fact, she has not yet met any of them. She dreams, will she manage to make 100 friends with this hope she enters the laundry room and suddenly freezes in place. Her mouth slowly opened in surprise. Before her was an empty space, because washing clothes in this world without washing machines is hard work. Usually no one would go to the laundry so happily as Melody. In the dormitory, maids have 3 ways to wash laundry. The first is to give it to the academy laundry, that is, to the dry cleaners. The second is to take it home and wash it themselves. Lucina and others live in the dormitory for the higher nobility, so their clothes are full of expensive items, so most just take their clothes home to wash. In the end, Celeste washed all the clothes herself and hung them to dry. And when she finished, she thought that having the whole spacious laundry just for herself was a bit fun, but at the same time, she feels a little lonely. When lunch comes, she goes to the dining hall with trepidation, hoping that this time she will be able to make friends. But as soon as she steps over the threshold, she sees a sea of people before her. The servants' dining hall is shared by all 6 student dormitories, so it is quite natural that a crowd gathers there, and the dining hall itself is simply huge. On the first floor, it feels like a student cafeteria, simple, familiar feeling. On the second, with waiters and a real restaurant atmosphere. Even if she calls them maids, if they are ladies-in-waiting, then they are noblewomen themselves. Such ladies live on the second floor, and the simple servants are probably kept on the first. She approaches the maid's table and quietly asks to share it with them. They immediately ask which maid's house she is from, and she answers, Luther Burke. As soon as they hear this name, their tone changes. They hurriedly apologize, saying the place is reserved for an acquaintance. She stands there, confused, and only then realizes that she was simply rejected. She eats her lunch alone at the table, strangely cheerful, while everyone else sits and chats in groups around her. She looks up and someone approaches her, asking to sit next to her. She instantly recognizes this is a servant of the Nvidia family, and next to her are several men from the staff. The girl introduces herself as Sasha and politely says she is pleased to meet her, then introduces the others. Lucina looks up at the man next to her, who is clearly blushing, and says that he told her he loves her cousin, a Brit. The man blushes even more and quickly denies ever saying anything like that. Warren immediately jokes that he is probably glad to see her, causing the man to sharply ask Warren not to tease people. But Warren just smiles and introduces himself as Warren Seth. Sitting nearby, Celeste learns that the children in the house where they serve are all old friends. Warren says that when he became a servant in the house of an ordinary merchant, he never thought that the son of that family would get into the academy. And Celeste asks if that man was also a childhood friend, to which he replies yes. They jokingly said it would be great to be in the same class as their master, then gave their ages: Sasha 15, British 16, Warren 18. British teased Warren for being the oldest. Warren sharply responded, and a quarrel instantly broke out between them. Sasha hurriedly apologizes for being too loud. Celeste replies that no, she is actually glad, and admits that she had tried several times before to join the table but was refused each time. Sasha gives an apologetic smile and says she thought Celeste just did not like to socialize much with other maids, then adds that Lucina Lautenberg from their house was called by the higher circles either a fairy tale princess or a princess heroine, and Celeste says she heard that is exactly how she was called at the ball. Sasha admits, although her young lady is indifferent to such gossip, there will probably be families who do not like it, and of course, it will affect the maids serving in those houses. Even if the masters do not get along with each other, the servants are even less likely to understand each other. Perhaps that is why she was rejected. She asks which group it was, and Celeste, refusing to tell her, replies that it was a group of servants from a noble house under the leadership of Duke Ranctor. Perhaps she does not even realize it, but among this year's newcomers there is a young lady from that house. Yet at the spring ball, all the attention was taken by Lucina from their family Anna, the Martian from Victalum, and although the Duke's daughter with the highest noble status was nearby, she was noticed much less. Even if it was not said directly, the impression was surely bad. Those maids probably refused precisely because it troubled them. Celeste suddenly realized that she had enjoyed her time at the estate so much that she missed something important. Being a maid is not only about cleaning and serving, but also about gathering information, sharing it with other maids, and bringing useful news about other households. Who would have thought she completely forgot about such an important duty? She returns to Sasha and sincerely thanks her. For now, she needs to hone her steal technique, sneaking silently, erasing her presence and hiding. Luna looks at Lucina and as if casually says she heard that Lucina is third in the class, and Lucina calmly replies that Luna is 10th, which is also quite impressive. After all, the exam was just yesterday evening, and both managed to score passing marks. Anna joins the conversation and exclaims that their results are simply wonderful. But Luna only smiles and says that they can in no way compare to Lady Anna or the Crown Prince. Luna believes that Anna is probably some diligent book lover. She inherited intelligence and talent, so probably she did not have to struggle at all. Outwardly she smiles gently, but inside she growls. No. She really had to work tirelessly. She was not an extraordinary prodigy from the start. This result is the fruit of relentless study, and even in the game her scores never reached such a level. And still it annoys her to fall behind that idiot Christopher. First place is quite expected for him. What really drives her crazy is the thought that he probably slept sweetly while she crammed all night. Aloud she of course will not say this, but just this thought twists her stomach. And then slowly, anxiously, another thought settles. If Lucina is in third place, does that mean that the school's replacement for the heroine is Lucina? In the game, her result on the midterm exam was recorded as third place, and the plot continues even without the heroine. Someone suitable takes her place. And after several events, she herself came to this realization. A person unknowingly, unconsciously begins to act according to the script. If Lucina became the substitute heroine, then from now on everything will revolve around her, although initially Lucina was supposed to be the first mid-boss. The Witch of Jealousy Lucina Lutherberg is a pathetic mid-boss whose inferiority complexes and jealousy towards the heroine were used by the Demon Lord. And that Demon Lord is probably lazily dozing off right now. She wonders what will come of this, but while thinking, suddenly freezes. Her eyes widen when she sees that girl at the other end of the room, who looks at them with hostility. Olivia, the Duke's daughter, behaved the same way as at the spring ball. She looked at Lucina with open hostility, then turned to Christopher and with an unusually sweet smile told His Highness that he was, as expected, wonderful, adding that she did everything but simply could not compete with him. Christopher calmly replied, asking if she had taken fourth place, and said that this was a position she should be quite satisfied with. Proud Anna became a little wary and thought to herself that everything was getting complicated. She was not a spare heroine, but a spare mid-boss. Lucina and Anna finished in second and third places, so they were pushed down, but her initial position in the game was second place. In the original, Anna always held a much lower position. She got angry at Christopher because he praised the heroine. Then Olivia, although secondary, was her ally, but now she is completely different. Isn't this half her fault? However, Olivia's attention seems to be fixed on Lucina. Anna understands Olivia's point of view. She is insanely annoyed that some recently fallen nobleman receives all the attention, but they did nothing wrong. It is not their fault. Everything just changed. The game has begun now. Everything is different, and she can only be careful. The teacher enters and decisively orders everyone to sit down immediately, announcing that classes officially start from tomorrow. For freshmen, the morning is allocated for general subjects, and the afternoon for electives, and general subjects include modern Japanese, mathematics, geography, history, foreign language, and etiquette. 3 lessons in the morning, all mandatory. The morning will be devoted to general subjects. After lunch, students can choose electives, attend 1 or 2 classes. There are so many options. For example, applied magic and specialized courses, basics of medicine, pharmacy, and architecture. He explains the reason why so many students enroll every year is simple. For noble boys, it is knighthood, and for noble girls, it is etiquette. Classes last 6 days a week. The 7th is a day off. During the semester, everyone lives in the dormitory, but already from the afternoon of the 6th day, students can go home, and in the morning of the first day of the next week commute to classes from home. Lucina looks at the options with a barely noticeable lip pout. She wants to choose applied magic, but she does not know how to use magic. Luna notes that applied magic is intended for those who already know how to cast spells, and admits that she herself also does not know how. At that moment, a new voice joins the conversation, saying that applied magic can still be taken in the first semester, and explains that, as was said at orientation, freshmen officially choose elective subjects only from the second semester. While enrollment in the first semester is temporary, they can attend any subject without any restrictions. Says Lucif German, Next to him, Luna quiets down a bit. A barely noticeable pink blush appears on her cheeks, but no one seems to notice it. Lucina asks Luna what she should do. She wants to try something advanced. Luna advises to first take general subjects and start with basic magic classes before taking on something more specialized, and Lucif adds that there is no need to rush and that this is completely normal. Luna quietly clarifies, "He is choosing pharmacy, right?" He answers, "Yes, his father is a pharmacist and he plans to take over the family business." Luna notes that the father also studied at the same academy and adds that both father and son are really excellent. He shyly denies it, says it is not so, and Lucina asks if he has already decided on elective subjects. He answers no. Their family has a trading house that serves nobles, so for now he plans primarily to make acquaintances and socialize at the academy. Lucina says that one can approach class selection differently, then asks if the lunch invitation is also part of this socializing, and Lucif replies that it is one of the reasons, but he also wanted to talk with both Lucina and Luna, and both froze. Lucif winks and says that their servants apparently met each other last night. He heard that they befriended Luna's maid, and also heard that two of Luna's servants were already acquainted at first. So the house where his childhood friends served turned out to be his own, and he finds this interesting. His maid befriended theirs. Then he asks if his maid really likes their maid that much. Lucina smiles, but the smile does not reach her eyes, and she asks if he means it romantically. Lucif immediately says that it is not so, just friends, nothing more. Then he smiles nervously and notes that Lucina seems too possessive about her maid, to which Lucina firmly replies that of course she is. If some man courts Melody, no matter if he is a knight or someone else, she has already decided that she will tear him to pieces. At that very moment, the knight himself sneezes, wondering if anyone is thinking about him. The teacher announced that their class showed the highest results among the three, but quickly added, "The reason is simple. Here are gathered the students who took places from first to fourth. If they are excluded, there is almost no difference between the classes, so remember this," and the rest of the students immediately became worried. Later, Luna suggests, "Maybe it's time to go home." Lucina replies that if she goes now, she will have to review the parts where she made mistakes. Luna notes that she is in 10th position, so she will have to repeat even more than Lucina, who took 3rd place. They both look around and see Anna and Christopher talking with Olivia. Luna suggests greeting the prince before leaving, but Lucina hesitates. She does not want to get involved with Olivia at all. Luna steps forward and warmly greets them, and Christopher smiles and says that since they are now classmates, he would be glad if they called him by his name. Luna replies that it would be too presumptuous on their part. Christopher looks a little disappointed. Everyone repeats the same thing. No one calls him anything other than His Majesty. Olivia smiles brightly, her cheeks barely blushing, and says that nothing can be done. No one can forget the respect they owe His Majesty. Lucina then leaned over and asked Anna if she was not going home yet, and Anna replied that after this, a guest was supposed to visit her. Olivia instantly added that if His Highness waits, Lady Olivia will also stay. Christopher apologized for bothering Olivia, but she quickly waved it off. It was not a problem at all. She really enjoys talking with His Highness. Lucina then again asked if Anna was already going home. Lucina closely watches how Olivia flirts with Christopher, then glances at Anna. She is curious about how she feels about the girl openly courting the heir to the throne. Anna seems not to worry at all. Just then Maxwell enters. He smiles at Lucina, says they haven't seen each other for a long time, and asks how she is doing. Christopher jokingly notes that Maxwell greets Lady Lucina earlier than him. What a surprise. And Maxwell indifferently says that she just caught his eye first. Olivia then asks if Riley did not attract his attention, and Maxwell gives her a brief look, after which he politely apologizes. He then returns to Anna and asks how she is doing. Luna, interested, watches him intently. Then Lucina introduces Luna, her friend, and Maxwell in response also introduces himself. Lucina asks what brought him here, but before he can answer, Olivia notes that it is not her place to interfere in matters that do not concern her. Lucina quickly apologizes. Maxwell says it's okay and explains that he came today to talk to them about the student council. Maxwell explained to Lucina that the school council selects members based on recommendations from teachers and current members, so there is no reason not to invite the heir to the throne. Lucina asked if this means Christopher will become the council president, and Maxwell replied that probably not in the first year. If Christopher settles in the council this year, then maybe next year will be his time. Maxwell leans slightly toward Lucina and quietly says that there is one more vacant position in the executive committee of the student council. If she wants, she can take it. Everyone fell silent. Anna stands as if rooted to the spot, completely stunned, and does not understand what this sudden turn is. In a certain sense, it resembles the role of a heroine, but of course, it still differs from the original. Maxwell asks Lucina what she thinks and adds that he heard she took 3rd place in the midterm exam, and he would be glad if such a capable person as she joined the council. Lucina immediately said that it is an honor for her, but she must refuse. When Maxwell asked for a reason, she honestly admitted that she does not have the confidence to take on such an important position. nudged Luna and suggested her instead, and Luna looked as shocked as Lucina was a few moments ago. She smiles awkwardly and says that it is impossible for her to. Maxwell says he is not forcing anyone, he just would like them to join, but will not pressure them. Olivia, standing nearby, looks noticeably angry. Everyone instantly turns and looks directly at her. Maxwell calmly reminds her that she already knows why he cannot invite her. Only one person from the same house can be an executive officer, and her older brother from the ranked door house already holds this position. Again, Anna got a little nervous when she noticed that Olivia was angrily looking at Lucina. On the 5th day of the school week, Celeste smiles and wishes Lucina a good day as she heads to the academy. Apparently, the school life of her lady is going very smoothly. During the preliminary enrollment for elective subjects, Lucina chose applied magic just like Luna. Gradually, she began to communicate with students from other classes. Having just finished her morning tasks, Celeste suddenly finds herself with free time. Later, Sasha flinched and asked what kind of luxurious care this was. British smiled and noted that since Celeste manages the work herself, it was interesting how much she could accomplish if she had that much time in the morning. Celeste replied that personally, she would like a slightly more serious challenge. Caring for the young lady does not burden her, no complaints, but these are the same tasks as in the manor in the royal capital, only there is less work. British wonders how she could like more work, and Celeste answers that the work of a servant is pure pleasure. Sasha notes that establishing relationships with other servants is also important and cannot be overlooked. Celeste admits that she does not have as many chances to communicate as she would like. Sasha offers to help her make more acquaintances among the staff. Celeste replies that for now she does not consider herself to have the free energy to deal with that. Sasha explains that she was initially a formal maid, and now she also does housework, so she is very busy. Celeste says that this is enviable. British adds that he lives in a commoner's dormitory, cramped even alone, and if he had to manage everything there for even a day, he would somehow cope with it. Suddenly, Sasha asks Celeste if she has seen the notice board. Celeste looks embarrassed and asks if there was anything like that at all, and Sasha grumbles that she usually does not notice such things and should be more attentive. She says there is a temporary announcement about recruiting a servant. Supposedly, this is an assistant position for an elective course taught by a temporary instructor. If Celeste is really bored, maybe she should try to apply. Later, Celeste approaches the notice board and reads the inscription. Recruitment of Virgin's assistant needed for the temporary instructor of the elective knighthood course, term 1 semester. Duties: prepare lessons and assist during classes. Age and gender not important, master's permission required. She thoughtfully rereads it. If age and gender do not matter, then probably there will be no heavy physical work there. And if it were assistant work in an elective, she could at least occasionally visit the academy. That alone would expand the scope of her affairs. She might even come across entirely new types of work. The idea interested her. When she mentions this to Lucina, she is a bit surprised and repeats, to be an assistant in an elective, but quickly says it's fine and that Celeste can go if she wants. Celeste asks again because she still does not believe that it is really okay. Lucina replied that, well, that's what she said, she is bored, isn't she? Moreover, in the first semester she will be busy because she plans to take several elective courses, so if Celeste takes another job, no problem. Lucina even admitted that it seemed to her as if Celeste was sitting idle. Although Lucina agrees so easily, Celeste cannot help but wonder why it still bothers her a little. Soon she goes to an elective called chivalry. It's just a lesson about sportsmanship. There are lectures about the very idea of chivalry, but the main goal of the classes is to hone combat skills. When she enters the room for the interview, she runs into the one she least expected, Lect. He also froze in surprise and said he never thought she would come, and Celeste blurted out that she herself was stunned by his appearance. She quickly realized she spoke too harshly and said she must watch her language, but Lect replied that when it's just the two of them, it's all right. Celeste then asked why he was here. Wasn't he serving as a knight for Count Legend Bard? Lect replied that he was here by order of his lord. During the spring attack, several people, including Lady Lucina, were trapped behind the barrier. This caused concern, so the number of places in the night class was increased. She raised an eyebrow slightly in surprise and asked if that meant he was an additional instructor. He replied that he was only a temporary mentor until a permanent one was found, and that his lord ordered him to come here. Celeste directly asks if he is bored too. He lets out a quiet groan. His main task was to serve as a scout knight, so in the royal capital he had no specific post. In the game, he was destined to become the heroine's escort knight, so in a sense there was nothing to be done here. He doesn't mind being a temporary instructor, but without an assistant it's a real hassle. Moreover, the housemaid Paula is hardly suitable for work at the academy, and asking someone from the Lord's house to come every day just for afternoon classes would be unseemly. Celeste asks if it wouldn't be even more embarrassing to ask for help from a servant from another house. He admits that he hadn't even thought about it until she appeared, saying this while deliberately avoiding her gaze. Then Celeste asks what exactly the duties would entail. He explains that it is mainly help in preparing classes and during lessons. He mostly needs help organizing documents and preparing materials for lectures. Sometimes she will also have to gather certain materials in the library. And at that moment, Celeste's face instantly brightens. She says that sounds like a really wonderful job. In her previous life, she devoured mountains of books. But in this world, they are expensive. As a commoner, she can read only a few. And even in their capital mansion, there is no large library. The thought of going to the library makes her incredibly happy, so she quickly asks when she can start. And he, surprised, asks if she is really ready to take on this job. His question makes her freeze. She raises her eyes to him with big innocent eyes, as if asking, "Am I not suitable for this?" His face instantly flushed. He quickly looked away and, embarrassed, said that if he can rely on her, let her start. She cheerfully called him by name and said she understood, but suddenly remembered that as his assistant she has to call him master. And this embarrassed him even more, so he hurriedly shifted. They told her that the classes are during the second session in the afternoon and that she can come to the office after lunch. Details will be adjusted when she officially starts. She giggled. He noticed and asked if she was really happy to have become his assistant. She nodded. She, with impatience in her voice, says that she especially looks forward to the library. He dryly replies, "Oh, the library," and she honestly admits that since arriving here the afternoons have been quite boring, so having something real to do is a great relief. He asks if she was really bored. She explains that there is less work here than at the estate. He silently looks at her and she asks if something is wrong. He says, no, it's just that she so resolutely wants to become the best maid in the world that, as he thought, she would be so immersed in it that she would never know boredom. But when she has free time, it's no wonder she feels that way. After that, he says, "That's all for today," and leaves. Leaving her alone in the classroom, she was absorbed in thought. The best maid in the world. She does not think it is about a maid who finishes work early and gets bored. So what exactly is this best partner in the world that she has targeted again? Again, on the evening before the holiday, Lucina returns home as soon as she arrives. Her mother and father greet her with obvious joy. They impatiently bombard her with questions about how the academy went, asking one after another about her friends and lessons. Lucina smiles gently and says they will talk about everything at dinner. The lady orders Selena to prepare dinner, and Selena asks Celeste to help with serving, to which Celeste replies that of course she will help. But Selena notices that Celeste is a bit gloomier than usual and wonders, or is it just her imagination? Celeste asks if she should start cleaning. Selena raises an eyebrow in surprise and asks if Celeste is not supposed to have a day off today. Celeste replies that today she will work for the soul, so everything will be fine. Selena sighs and says that if so, nothing can be done, and Celeste adds that for the first time in a long time she will use magic. She commands her magic to clean the entire estate. Suddenly, everything starts cleaning by itself. Selena grumbles that Celeste has overdone it, and Celeste is just amazed. She never expected to be scolded for excessive cleaning. Selena replied that if it comes to that, she is scolded for working on her day off. After a moment, she asked if Celeste feels a little better now, and Celeste, surprised, asked if she noticed that. Selena explained that the usual Celeste would clean so that everything was flawless and would return with a barely noticeable smile, after which Celeste fell silent, recalling her mother's words. If she is going to become a servant, she must strive to become the best servant in the world. She asks Selena how she imagines the best servant in the world. Selena simply says that it means the best servant in the world. To her, it sounds exactly like Celeste. Celeste smiles and thanks her but says she is still far from that. Even now she admits that she really does not understand what the best maid in the world means. She always thought she was doing everything she could, studying, honing skills, and working tirelessly, and vaguely believed that someday she would achieve it. And everything left unfinished, Lucina will help to complete. Celeste blossomed, her face lit up. She exclaimed that this was wonderful news, and asked if she could start right now. Lucina blinks, clearly confused by her enthusiasm, and hesitantly asks if she really doesn't mind, if she will truly be fine managing the whole estate alone, and Celeste replies with absolute joy, saying that she was just afraid she would have to work in a team of maids, so this is even better. Lucina cannot help but wonder why she looks so happy about this, while Celeste, rejoicing inwardly, thinks that all that work will be hers. She is the happiest girl in the world. When she asks for a uniform, Lucina admits she doesn't have a paid uniform. Everything was ready, and this prompted Celeste to simply utter a spell, and in an instantly, around her figure appeared a perfectly fitted maid uniform. Lucina froze in shock. Her mind blank. How did this girl manage to neatly cover every important part during that transformation? When Celeste twirled once, and with a radiant smile asked if she liked the new uniform, Lucina barely murmured that it looked wonderful. Celeste rejoices at Lucina's agreement and smiles. When it comes to created outfits, nothing beats the classic. Lucina, still a bit confused, admits that she never imagined magic could do so much. Prompt. This made Celeste smile proudly, and add that she even placed a protective charm on it stronger than most armors. Actually, glancing around. In the dusty, neglected halls, Celeste announced that restoring the estate was her main priority. but quickly realized she couldn't manage alone. Her decision was simple. Simply to avoid being lonely. With a light wave of her hand, she summons several magical copies of herself, her physical doubles, and begins. She briskly and confidently assigns tasks. As soon as everything starts moving, she decides, "I'll take care of dinner outside." She summons shimmering wings that carry her to the town, but upon arrival she sees that the local market is completely beyond their budget, but that doesn't stop her. Thirdly, she dares to venture into the neighboring forest, gathering green mushrooms, wild fruits, and herbs. Although she sighs a bit of meat would make this dish perfect. Her wish quickly comes true when a bird flies overhead giving. An idea suddenly occurs to her. Concentrating magic, she skillfully tracks it even while cooking. She can't help but think that birds in this world are strangely large. Yet still food is plentiful until the sky darkens. Looking at the marks, she realized it was already late. So she decided to shorten the way home and summoned a glowing gate that opened right at the service entrance. Walking through this with a satisfied smile, she thinks that magic is truly the best way to save time. Celeste did not know many other mages, so her idea of ordinary and wild magic was heavily distorted. Her mother only knew one fire spell, which she could use only once a day, and she still didn't understand it. Lucina watches as Celeste brings her food and awkwardly apologizes for her wait. Lucina asks her not to strain herself, says that she is probably already very tired. But Celeste insists that it is not a problem at all. She smiles brightly and insists that Lucina rest well and enjoy the tea, speaking with such energy that Lucina almost felt guilty for just sitting down. Celeste thought aloud, since it's already a break, she can go to the bathroom. Lucina poked a finger down the corridor and said that it was right there, adding that the section had almost been completely cleared. When Celeste goes out, Lucina looks around the now dazzlingly shining mansion, thinking to herself that Celeste really works fast and surprisingly pays attention to details for someone who just started today. But then her fingers touched the wall and she froze. There used to be a huge crack here, and now it was completely gone. In a moment, Celeste appears again and cheerfully says that she just cleaned the bathroom. Lucina looks at her suspiciously, thoughts racing. She tries to piece everything together because something is wrong here. Approaches the kitchen and thinks that now she is completely focused on cleaning, but will she have time to cook dinner too? To be sure, Lucina quietly goes to the kitchen, but as soon as she steps inside, she freezes. Her eyes open wide, breath caught in disbelief. Several Celeste's work in perfect sync, washing, cutting, and stirring, as if they had rehearsed this for years. The sight makes Lucina shut down. Later that evening during the meal, she cannot help but whisper how delicious the food is here. She smiles and says that she liked the main dish the most, roasted bird with herbs, simply incredible. Admits that she hadn't been able to afford meat for a long time and, sincerely interested, asks if there was some kind of sale. Celeste confesses that she actually found the meat in the forest. Lucina asks if she means that she used magic as before. Celeste proudly nods and adds that the vegetables and herbs are also from there, that she is glad they live so close to such a generous forest. She says she is glad they live so close to such a generous forest. Lucina says that the only forest nearby is the cursed Vanagrand, and it is definitely not appropriate to go there to gather food. Celeste asks if there really is a cursed forest here. Lucina answers yes, it is incredibly dangerous. She warns Celeste never under any circumstances to go there and makes her promise that she will never approach. So let's quickly. She quickly nods and says that she will definitely avoid this. What none of them knows is that she has already left that very forest, and Lucina's face softens into a smile. She thanks for today and sincerely says that she is glad Celeste came to work with them. The estate seems to have come alive again. Meanwhile, His Majesty receives urgent news. An uninvited guest was spotted in the great Vanagrand forest, and these words froze him in shock. Vanagrand. Yet it was one of the greatest scourges of the magical world, a forest teeming with magical creatures called monsters, which could only be harmed by extremely powerful spells. There are many such cursed lands, but this forest is especially dangerous, and was sealed to keep the monsters inside and unaware travelers outside. His Majesty anxiously asks the man if the invader is still inside. But the messenger replies that their protective spells have detected nothing leaving this zone, and they do not suspect that he has already slipped through a dimensional wormhole. Then he orders even more soldiers to be sent to the region to scour the words in search of something unusual and to remain vigilant, and commands the messenger to constantly monitor their sensing words, even for the slightest change, after which the mumbles almost to himself, who is this mysterious, uninvited guest? He is a servant. Meanwhile, Lucina tells Celeste that she wants to invite her friends to a tea party. She wants to show them that they have changed. Celeste is grateful today she actually managed to catch the beast. Now that she has a favorite sport, she uses the dimensional door both for entry and exit. And she has no idea that she comes and goes from the forbidden forest whenever she pleases. Lucina paused for a moment, then said that the two girls she wants to invite are her childhood friends. Lady Miliaria, daughter of Baron Fahrencolt, and Lady Beatrice, daughter of Baron Lillard Cruss. Their estates stand on land next to her family's estate. Their families bought that plot from a man who was a count 2 generations before her father, when his business went bankrupt. And since her family could barely pay off debts, it was a genuine kindness on their part. For details, visit our website www.fahrenkult.co.uk. But for some reason, generation after generation, accusations were thrown at them. Allegedly, they stole their land. Fortunately, this guy. The title of Count quickly passed to her grandfather, who reconciled with the barons, and so they avoided an awkward situation, 2 enemies right on the other side of the fence. Since then, the 3 families have become very close friends. But at the very last party, she made a terrible impression, and now she must fix it. Lucina looks at her. She is bleeding. Pushing glances finally made her agree. Later, Lucina stands in front of the mirror, completely different from before. Celeste styled her hair and with her spells created this beautiful dress, and now Lucina can invite them without feeling insecure. Moreover, she really wants to do it. Celeste suggests having a tea party in a week, and Lucina throws herself into her arms, exclaiming her gratitude. Celeste. She suddenly realizes that one should not hug one's servant. It is improper, but Lucina pushes her. She knows how much you like it. Don't be so cold. Celeste grumbles. Where did she learn to talk like that? And it makes her smile grows wider. She says sorry, and then Celeste mumbles. She will have to work hard if she wants to train her in time for the party. Lucina asks, why train her? A devilish smile appears on Celeste's lips, and she declares that she will teach her to speak like a real lady. It was then that Lucina realized she had unintentionally opened Pandora's box. Mizunami Ritsuko. Suko was a genius once in a generation. If she had not died young, her innate talent and tireless work would surely have secured her a permanent place in human history. Why? Because of her willpower. In short, as soon as Ritsuko decides something, she does it. Because she was obsessed with mids and put in incredibly exhausting efforts to learn everything about them. And since this was normal for her, her teaching methods were truly Spartan and harsh. Fortunately, at least for Lucina, finally, after so much fuss, her feminine powers blossomed. A day before the tea party, the maid accidentally spilled something on Celeste's dress. Although Celeste insists that everything is fine, the maid panics and stubbornly wants to take. She leads her to the estate where she works nearby, saying she will immediately draw her a bath. They need to wash the uniform now, otherwise the stain will set. Celeste follows, thinking, maybe the maid serves a baron or a knight after all. The estate looks so modest. Later, she stands in the guest room, wrapped in a towel, and slightly irritably wonders why she is completely naked over such a trifle after all. Eventually, she gives up trying to explain it and plops into the warm bath, sighing and whispering that the bathing customs in this world always surprise her. All the plumbing is Western ceramics, but the process itself is more Eastern. People sit on a stool and wash themselves before getting into the water, like in Japan, as if it was done on purpose. Overall, it reminded her of England in the second half of the 19th century, but the world itself is more like medieval Europe, and there is magic here. However, all the bathrooms look exactly like in Japan. This world was molded from the best pieces of human history, now that she thought about it. About that, she hasn't bathed in a tub for a long time. She didn't have to. And maybe it wouldn't hurt her to take off the mask for a moment. Her light hair falls apart and her true eye color returns. She looks at herself and says, "Hello, Mom, I missed you." Now she has the same eyes as her mother. She tells her mother that she succeeded. All that remains is to keep working until she becomes the best in the world, but she wonders what exactly she will have to do to have the right. What did she mean, she thinks, the best in the world? It was her mother's last wish, but what did she feel when she wrote those words? Well, at any cost, to become the best. One thing is certain, she won't reach the top if she can't handle every possible duty of a maid. So far it works. The position of maid in the Ruttlebird mansion is the best way to do it, after all. After all, she may have some self-taught knowledge from a past life, but she is still green. This is her first real job as a servant. She has just qualified. She just needs to gain experience, and someday she will fulfill her promise to her mother's daughter to become the best. The bath really worked wonders. It lifted her mood and warmed her up. Now, after a relaxing bath, she thought it was probably time to ask Paula to return her uniform. She opens the door and steps out, but freezes. A man stands before her, as naked as she is. For a moment, neither of them even moved, both frozen in absolute shock then. And then, with a frightened breath, Celeste instinctively utters a spell and the man instantly disappears. A confused scream bursts out. A sound escapes her lips. She grips the towel tighter and mutters, "What's with that man? What kind of freak barges into the bath without even knocking?" Like, Blake acts as if he is the absolute master here. In a moment, Paula bursts into the room, frightened by the noise, asks what happened and doesn't even suspect that this place really belongs to him. Meanwhile, the Count informs Lectes that he wants to see him at this year's spring ball, and Lectes freezes in surprise, trying to object. He is just a humble knight. No one will even notice him. At first, the Count tells him not to do anything foolish. Every year when he is absent, a bunch of women complain and ask where he is, and this year the heir to the throne is entering the academy as a freshman. He just needs to be there to celebrate. As It looks like he wants to argue, but in the end he sighs heavily and gives in after all. The Count is his superior, so he can't refuse. Yet he can't stop thinking how much better it would be to switch places with Sable. At least then he would be in another country, not dealing with the nobility and its endless formalities. The Count looks at him and, hiding a satisfied smile behind a calm expression, thinks, wonderful. With Lectus nearby, there will be fewer who rush at him. Most of the capable ones will probably switch to Lectus. Although he pretends it is some noble cause, everyone can see he is simply using his knight as a living shield. Then, as if rubbing salt in the wound, the Count says he also needs to bring a companion to the ball. Lectes shudders and asks if it is really necessary. The Count dryly reminds him that he already explained. Those women become downright fierce when they set their sights on something. If they see him without a woman on his arm, they will attack him like bees on honey. His tone. The tone softened, and he whispered that if only his daughter had been found in time. He admitted he hoped Lectes could accompany her, and almost wistfully added that he himself would have been a great protector for her, but then gave him a cold look and said he couldn't imagine being foolish enough to ever dare to touch her right. When news came of Selina's death and that she had a daughter, Celeste, one of the Count's men who knew well that neighboring country where Celeste supposedly fled was sent to search, but there was no word from him, because in reality she never went there. Since she was the Count's illegitimate daughter by his servant, the search is conducted secretly to avoid scandal, and no one expected she would be in the same city, under the same sky, cheerfully working as a servant, while the father only wonders what she is doing now and whether she is in trouble after all. Celeste was once the Count's illegitimate daughter by his servant. Returning to reality, Lectes found himself on the couch, completely stunned. Her image flashed vividly in his mind. Those blue eyes, that silver hair, and his heart trembled with shock. He is all right. Finally found her, but she appears before him again, her hair now black and unfamiliar. Confused, he stares at her face, not understanding if it was all just a dream. Maybe it's just a dream. He mutters that he knows her and she shudders. She trembles. Brothers, preparing for the worst, she holds her breath, but instead he simply says, so that girl who tried to get to the capital, right? When he recalls their brief meeting, but now she realizes that she still understands nothing. The most charming servant in the world. Celeste suddenly froze when Selina, excited, called her. Then Celeste asked Selina for a favor. Selina cleared her throat and told her, do everything you can. She added that she will always be rooting for her. Celeste froze again, her eyes wide open. Selina quickly clarified that maybe she did not say it quite right. She meant to become the most wonderful maid in the world. Celeste wonders why that word just sounded different. No, it's not quite like that. It's just that for a moment Selina sounded so much like their mother. Selina asks if something is wrong. Celeste quickly says it's nothing, telling herself that she probably just imagined it. When she herself believed it, she smiles brightly again. She felt a little relief in her soul. She sincerely thanks Selina and says that it is precisely because of this she feels that she can make a little more effort. The second week of school life begins. Lucina addresses Melody and says that she is counting on her again. After talking with Selina, Celeste's anxiety subsided a bit, and she decided that there was no point in dwelling on it anymore. From now on, she would just do everything she could. She stayed in the mansion until morning and did not have time to wash the clothes from last week. They had no noticeable stains, but she still decided to wash them properly. When she approached the laundry room, a light humming reached her ears. Strange. Usually no one comes here. But today another maid was already there, quietly humming as she sorted through a pile of laundry. Noticing Celeste at the door, she greeted her with a light smile. The maid laughed a little and admitted that she was humming to herself because she thought no one was there. Celeste smiled and said that humming and washing just go together. The maid brightened in the face. Celeste introduced herself as Melody. The other servant smiled warmly and said her name was Marian, and she served in the house of the Martianist Victor Ram, to which Celeste could not hide her surprise. While Marian ironed the freshly washed laundry, she explained that most of the laundry is usually sent back to the estate, and here it is easier to wash only small items, handkerchiefs and towels. And she looked at Melody and casually asked if she was the only one using this laundry. Melody quickly nodded and replied that yes. Because of this, she hardly had a chance to get to know other servants. Marian thoughtfully said that it must have been lonely, but added that probably more people would start coming over time. Melody smiles and says she really hopes so. At that very moment, the door opened again. Another woman entered and called Marianne, asking how she was. Marianne straightened up a little, replied that there were no particular problems, and then introduced Melody from the Lutterberg household. She also tells Melody that the woman who just came in is Lady Clarice, lady-in-waiting to Lady Anna, and since Clarice is also a daughter of a Viscount family, Melody should greet her properly. Celeste instantly bows politely and says, "Nice to meet you," and Clarice looks at her for a moment and quietly nods. She gladly says that the servants in the Lutterberg house were properly raised, adds that she hopes Melody and Marianne will get along from now on. Clarice also notes that Lady Lucina seems to get along well with Lady Anna, so the servants better not cause unnecessary trouble. Before leaving, she calmly adds that light conversations should be kept to a minimum, and having said that, she turns and leaves the laundry room. When she is already behind the door, Celeste slightly tilts her head and asks why Lady Clarice came here. And Marianne indifferently replies that she just dropped by. It turns out that Clarice supervises the maids in the Marquis's house. Marianne says that despite her stern appearance, she is actually very caring. Celeste considers her a wonderful person who takes care of her subordinates, doesn't she? Unlike a maid in the house, the lady-in-waiting has a close relationship with the mistress and serves only her, so she should not be controlled by other servants and does not control them, although this profession is usually separate. Clarice is trusted, isn't she? Celeste understands that her servants know how to work together, which means they have everything needed for the most wonderful chambermaid in the world to work and take on leadership. The work of chambermaids is primarily the distribution of tasks and coordinated cooperation to get everything done, so teamwork must be trained. She would very much like them to find a new chambermaid as soon as possible. Later, after she was recruited by the school, Celeste approaches Lect with a bright smile and says that starting today she looks forward to working with him, addressing him as master. Lect looks like he can barely stand, instantly asks her to just talk to him, normally says he really won't manage if she keeps speaking like that. Celeste replies that she doesn't care but asks what he means by won't manage. Lect hurriedly says he will start by explaining the work details, but immediately changes the subject and says that lectures take place on the first and fourth days of the week, from which Celeste quickly understands he means the Japanese Monday and Thursday and asks where she should start. Lect asks her to start by organizing materials for each student and says that the children will do this slowly for now. Real training will only begin in the second semester. Meanwhile, his lessons are meant to lay a solid foundation. Celeste asks what she should do during the lessons. Lect says he wants her to watch over the students. Some of them may not be used to physical exertion. She has to make sure that those who need to drink water do so, distribute towels, and help anyone who gets injured. He also wants her to be able to provide basic first aid if necessary, and adds that as a maid she must be exactly that attentive and caring. Celeste mentally decides that this is more the work of a manager than a servant, but politely nods and says she understands. Immediately offers to prepare lemons and honey, thinking that although this is not a usual task for a servant, she is still wonderful and full of the spirit of service. This is also another step towards becoming the most wonderful servant in the world, because being positive is important. Lect says he will explain the equipment next, but suddenly Celeste interrupts him and asks if she should braid her hair into 2 ponytails for the sailor uniform, and if she needs glasses and kettle, to which Lect quietly mumbles, clearly embarrassed that he has no idea what she means, and does not consider any of that necessary. Then he announced that the lessons would start very soon. She chose this course so she should already understand. His course, The Path of the Night, is a simple introductory course for beginners. First, he will explain what the Path of the Night really means. He tells Celeste that there are 19 students in total here, 11 freshmen, 6 sophomores, and 2 juniors. Most are noble boys, and the rest are outstanding students from simple families. And Celeste knows she must move quickly but cannot be rude. At the same time, she needs to grasp everything around so the schedule does not break down, so she works and simultaneously organizes everything in her head. This is Celeste. It is the maid's job to make sure the masters live in complete comfort. Soon the students are ordered to run around the arena so Lect can assess their abilities. The students already looked exhausted. They had no idea that with another teacher they would have to run so much, and Celeste approaches them with a gentle smile and offers them water. She still feels that this job is more like a manager's position than maid duties. But she sincerely believes that somewhere in this work lies the path to becoming the most wonderful maid in the world. Even after this, Lex continued to strictly instruct the beginners, but when the second lesson came 3 days later, everyone showed up, not a single absence. Celeste is clearly happy when she finds a letter from Selena. Lucina immediately notices her reaction and asks what happened. Celeste explains that this is the first letter from Selena since she arrived here. A new maid arrived at the estate Shihio. Lucina instantly came to life, jumping on the spot together with Celeste from excitement. She exclaimed, "Wonderful." Calming down a bit, Lucina asked what was written in the letter. Celeste says the details will be told as soon as she returns. More precisely, she was told that she became an apprentice maid. Because she is still inexperienced, Selena will teach her. Lucina slowly nods. She says that this will not provide immediate help yet, but adds that it is wonderful a servant has already appeared who might one day get into their house. Celeste happily agrees and says that the time is wonderful, especially since lately she has been thinking a lot about working together with other maids. Lucina quietly admits that she is already looking forward to the next weekend, and Celeste beams and says that she is looking forward to it too. Lucina asks how Celeste's temporary work at the elective is going, and she says that everything is fine, everyone there is very kind, so working is easy. Lucina looks away, her eyes narrow in quiet irritation. Recently she found out that the temporary lecturer for that course is exactly that person. But she still forces herself to smile and says that she is glad everything is good, even adding that she is a little jealous. Celeste notices the strange tone and asks if something is wrong, and Lucina shakes her head and says that nothing serious, she is just upset because the elective, which she is very interested in, is not available for enrollment. She explains that it is applied magic and only those students who know how to use spells are admitted to the course. But the trial enrollment period is still ongoing, so at least she can observe the class, and Celeste thinks that Lucina is a bit cute when she says that, while Lucina herself is lost in her own thoughts. At first she was simply curious, but now she understands that it is something more. Somewhere along the way she really started to be interested in magic. Lucina explains to Celeste that no one in their family truly has a talent for magic. Even if she is interested, it just happened that way. Celeste looks a bit puzzled when she hears this. She says that she still feels magical power from Lucina as if she really has it. Celeste wonders aloud if it ever happens that a person has absolutely no magic, because usually the difference is only in how much power someone has, and a complete absence is rare. Adds that she also could not use magic before. When her abilities were first tested, she was told that there is magical power in her body, but something was missing, so that power did not awaken. Celeste tells Lucina that maybe it is still too early to give up. If she trains a little, maybe she will also be able to use magic. Lucina's eyes immediately shone with excitement. She asks if it is really possible, and Celeste quickly adds that she cannot promise anything after all. Until very recently she herself did not know how to use magic, which makes Lucina raise her eyebrows in surprise and ask again if that means that Celeste did not know how to cast spells in her youth. Celeste nods and says yes, she only started using it recently, and depending on the type of magic, maybe Lucina could too. Suddenly Lucina grabs her hand firmly with both hands and almost pleadingly asks for help. If there is any way for her to also use magic, she wants to try. Celeste hesitates a little and says it might be difficult, but at least they can try a little later. Celeste leads Lucina to the bedroom and tightly draws the curtains. Lucina suddenly freezes. Her face instantly blossomed with a bright blush. Celeste noticed and asked what was wrong, and Lucina shyly stammered, saying, "Celeste, you brought me to the bedroom so I could use magic, right?" But she remembered reading somewhere that when a man and a woman are alone in a bedroom. Celeste is horrified. "Where did you read that, Lucina?" Lucina quickly insists that if so they can do it on the bed or just nearby. She is only worried about the curtains. Celeste almost fainted from irritation, quickly explaining that closing the curtains is just a precaution from her own experience, and asks if Lucina knows a simple light spell for lamps, since that was the first magic Celeste ever used and the first time she tried it. The light burst out like a flash of the sun. If something like that happens again with some unfamiliar magic, it will be a disaster, so she tightly closed the curtain. Lucina sighs and says that even if she could use magic, it still sounds impossible to her. Celeste says that first they need to measure Lucina's magical power in this world. Most people barely feel the presence of magic itself, and even less can accurately determine its strength. That is why a special spell is needed for an accurate measurement. Celeste is extremely insensitive to other people's magic. For someone who possesses great magic, foreign magic is too weak. The difference is like between the moon and a soft turtle, an elephant and an ant, a whale and a sardine, and that is why it poses no threat at all. Celeste managed to sense Lucina's magic. It is weak, but now Celeste is sure. The young lady has power, and if Lucina masters the right technique, she will be able to use magic at least a little. When Celeste says this, Lucina looks surprised. Lucina asks skeptically if it is really possible to find all this out just by holding hands, and Celeste smiles and explains simply. It is like sonar. She pushes a bit of her magic into Lucina's body, and when Lucina's magic responds, Celeste catches the reply. By the speed and strength of this response, she roughly estimates how much magic Lucina has. Lucina's eyes sparkle with excitement. She impatiently asks what to do next. Celeste says that before learning any techniques, she first needs to feel her own magic. During the previous check, Celeste felt how her magic and Lucina's magic repelled each other inside her, so she asks Lucina if she noticed that feeling. Lucina looks confused and shakes her head, and Celeste says that this is where they need to start. She will gradually increase the flow of magic between them in the same way as before. And with the strengthening of the flow, the repulsion of their magics should also become stronger. So Lucina needs to focus on that feeling. Lucina hesitates and asks if it is really safe to pour so much magic into her, to which Celeste reassures her. It would be dangerous if the magic flowed only one way, but if it circulates between both of them, everything will be fine. Lucina asks if she should close her eyes, and Celeste gently explains. When the five senses receive too much information, subtle sensations fade, especially sight distracts the mind, so it is easier to concentrate with closed eyes, and she asks her to focus on the magic inside the body. While she slowly increases the flow of magic between them, Lucina obediently does what she is told and concentrates. After a moment, Celeste with a slight smile asks if she feels anything. Lucina replies that she still feels nothing, and Celeste asks her to increase the magic a little more. Lucina precisely follows her instructions. Soon both froze in silence, focusing all their attention on the subtle flow of magic between them. Melody nourished the magic, and its light shone the curtains prevented it from leaking outside. No one noticed except one person. Bayuk Kissel in a small body that does not suit him. 18 years old, disheveled purple hair, and he turned out to be the culprit of the attack on the spring ball. Because he was controlled by the sword that once sealed the demon lord, the lord was already cleansed by Celeste, and Bayuk was supposed to become a free person. Lucina frowns, sweat shines on her forehead. Celeste keeps calling her, asking if she feels anything, but Lucina really does not understand magic at all. No, not even a little. Maybe she really has no magic. Celeste also falls silent. Is this the end? Suddenly, Lucina finds herself in the middle of a huge field covered with flowers. She blinks in confusion. Where is this? She was just in her bedroom with Melody, and now around her only endless flowers stretching as far as the eye can see. She slowly kneels and falls into the soft flowers. One snowflake slowly twirls and softly lands on her palm. She whispered, "Beautiful," and for some reason she was overwhelmed by a tender feeling. Then a mysterious light appears from the flower, and she hears someone calling her. Her eyes suddenly open, she shudders and is already back in her room, although just a moment ago she was in that flower field. Celeste leaned close, looking anxiously and asking if she was okay. Lucina squinted in surprise. Was it a dream? Celeste says she called her several times, but she did not respond at all. Celeste asks if she feels unwell. Lucina quickly shook her head and assured that everything was fine. Celeste guessed that they probably overdid it a bit today, told her to take a bath and rest, then decided to prepare the bath herself and reminded her to remove her jewelry. Lucina takes off the ring that Celeste gave her. She freezes for a moment, staring at it in her palm. For some reason, just looking at it, and a quiet calm spreads in her heart. The next day, Lucina feels her own magic again, and although she still cannot use it, the very feeling of its presence is a huge step forward for her. By the weekend, Lucina and Selena return together to the Count's estate, both in a wonderful mood, and they do not even suspect that their arrival will completely confuse the new maid. She freezes in shock, not understanding why the heroine is here. Time rewinds a bit at Count Lutherberg's estate. Selena is a magical doll, and at first she did not need to sleep, but they installed a sleep function so she could live as close to humans as possible, so Selena always tries her best to live like an ordinary person. In the morning, Selena greeted the dog and smiled at him, and the dog looked proud and majestic, as if wanting to growl at the foolish people and demand that they fall to their knees before him. Selena helps the master with preparations and supports the maids in their tasks, and Lucina's father sighs, saying they could also use a butler, at least an apprentice like that maid, to which Selena says that simply bringing someone from their territory won't work. If they do that, the people there simply won't cope with the work. After a moment of thought, the master asks Selena to go that same day in the afternoon to the merchant guild and check the servant recruitment if anyone has already applied. Selena said that so far no one has applied, so the master allowed to relax the requirement for a recommendation letter and asked her to inform the trade guild that the hiring decision would be made after the interview later at the trade guild. The receptionist listens to Selena's request and nods, but still asks if it is really appropriate for a noble house to accept servants without a recommendation letter. If the candidates do not come, they will not be able to do anything. Suddenly they were interrupted by a thin child's voice. She looked down and saw a young girl who raised her eyes to her and said, "If they need a maid, she should be hired." The receptionist sighs and asks if she came again today. Selena looks surprised and asks if she knows the girl, and the receptionist says that the child is from the orphanage and has been visiting often lately, asking about work. But few will agree, few want to take such a small child. A few years ago this might have happened, but now thanks to regular stagecoach runs, adult workers are easy to find. The little girl insists again she wants this job, because she heard that no recommendation is needed for this position. Selena freezes and thinks about what to do. No matter how you look at it, the child will not be able to help immediately. Surely, much physical work will be beyond her strength. But even if this child is refused, no one guarantees that other candidates will appear, even with relaxed conditions. Selena cannot know for sure if the girl is suitable as a servant, so she looks at her closely. For an orphan, she is well-groomed and strangely intelligent. But most importantly, Selena is only a recruiter. The final word belongs to the master, and if she refuses now, she will exceed her authority. After brief consideration, Selena decides that the first step is to talk to the orphanage guardian. When Mika finally understood that this world was the very game Silver Saints and the Five Oath, several days had already passed since she was placed in the orphanage. In a flashback, Annabella tells her that there was an attack at the ball and Mika freezes. Annabella explains that every year a spring ball is held in the royal castle, and Mika quietly says that it sounds scary. After all, it's in the royal castle and the king himself was there. This world is truly frightening. She thought to herself that she definitely does not know where she ended up, but it is definitely not Japan, or rather not Earth. It seems to her like one of those reincarnation stories into autumn games that were popular when she was a child. Annabella notices that she is lost in thought and asks what is wrong. Mika snaps out of it, says nothing, but again inquires about the attack, and Annabella replies that it does not concern them, although there is a rumor that the Royal Academy will be temporarily closed. She heard that the target was the heir to the throne, and next to him was also a young lady from the Victorian family. Annabella is worried if she is okay. Mika asks if she is really that close to that young lady, and Annabella says that maybe she was a bit too familiar with her and feels like she has met her somewhere before. Mika smiles and says that a girl from such a noble family must be arrogant, but Annabella assures that she is kind. She froze, suddenly realizing that these names sound strangely familiar, even the heir to the throne, Christopher. Where had she heard this? Annabella calls her again and asks what is wrong, and she emerges from her thoughts. Mika says nothing but suddenly blurts out, "Sister Annabella," and repeats it once more. Sister Annabella. She understands that Annabella is the head of the orphanage, and Annabella asks what happened suddenly and why she keeps repeating her name. But Mika's face had already turned pale. Now she understands why this name sounded familiar. Sister Annabella, Crown Prince Christopher. Anna isn't Partizia, the capital of the Thialese kingdom. There it is. There is no doubt it fits perfectly into the world of the game. This is truly the world of Silver Saints and the Five Oath, and the fact that the attack has already happened means the scenario has begun. But now it is April, and the event at the orphanage is supposed to take place in May. It was a story about a heroine who, during a secret meeting, noticed the terrible state of the orphanage and tries to save it. If this continues, the shelter will be in danger. Mika has never seen a character in the game that resembles herself. Therefore, she must be one of the nameless orphans. In reincarnation stories, those like her are usually made into ordinary mobs with cheating abilities. But she is a simple person among the nobility and an orphan. She is unlikely to be able to change anything. But the shelter that took her in is in danger. She cannot just sit and wait for the heroine to save it, right here and now. She decides it's time to get to work. Annabella looks worried and says that at Mika's age, she doubts anyone would want to hire her. But Mika believes that even if this is not a complete solution, it can still help with their living expenses. She recalls that there should be a merchants' guild in the royal capital. Annabella asks where this idea suddenly came from, and Mika resolutely says that she will definitely save the orphanage. Mika was reincarnated in the game world, and in confusion and panic because the scenario was already underway, she repeatedly ran to the merchants' guild, not even noticing that the orphanage was not in financial trouble. Eventually, she was returned to Luther Berg's estate. The lady looked at her and said that she is a sweet child, therefore they will count on her, and Selina asked if she was really sure about that. Madame replied that even if she refused the request, it was unlikely anyone else would come. She thinks to herself that maybe her memories are more tied to her years in high school, but she cannot shake the feeling that she is a schoolgirl again. Selina asks how things are. Mika looks up and says that if she means the puppy, he is sound asleep and mumbling some nonsense in his sleep. She is delighted with the puppy. It is incredibly cute, although its sleep talking is a bit scary. Selina apologizes for suddenly asking her to look after him and says that he has been scared since the puppy licked her choker yesterday. She announces that she will teach her to clean because cleaning is the simplest and most important duty of a maid. Those who do not know how to clean often miss details and are inattentive. It is her first day, so there is no need to rush into everything at once. Haste is unnecessary. Let her act carefully. Mika promises to do her best and mentally tells herself that she must try even harder. Later, when Selina finished cleaning, Mika stood as if stunned. It seemed to her that her senior had managed to clean the entire estate while she herself was still fussing over one small area. It was incredible. She wonders whether this is the true power of the Isekai maid, or if earthly maids would also be so incredible. Selina tells her that the maid's work may look simple, but in reality it is very difficult. Since it is only her first day, she should focus and become better step by step, just like that. Finally, the weekend came. On the weekend, Mika learns that the young lady of this house will return. When they were both kneeling on the floor of her room adjusting the sheets, Selina told her that on weekends Lady Lucina returns from the academy dormitory. Mika repeated the name Lady Lucina, and Selina added that Melody also returns with her. Mika says that sounds like an older sister, but Selina explains that they are not related. In such a house, the head maid is regarded as the older sister by everyone. Mika says, the highest. Selina should be the head maid. She is already incredible. Selina just smiles and says that she cannot even compare herself to the person she is talking about. Mika wondered how incredible that person must be, but as soon as she saw her, her mind went blank. This is the heroine. She still remembers how her granddaughter once told stories about her. Black hair and neatly ironed shape. This is exactly how the heroine appeared. The granddaughter once showed her an illustration and asked if it was really her. The granddaughter explained that this was an unpublished illustration by the original artist, just discovered, and even the developers knew almost nothing about it. Perhaps it was an early design that was later discarded. Grandmother fell silent. When the child asked what happened, she quietly replied that in the game the heroine seemed lonely for so long, but she just felt that in this version she seemed to be having fun. She begins to wonder what change could have turned the heroine into a maid. And Lucina, in the original she was known as the Witch of Jealousy, a completely different heroine, and now it seems everything has turned upside down. Remembering again, the shelter does not look poor at all was her running in circles in vain. Moreover, after the attack, the academy was supposed to be temporarily closed. She heard that Lucina's school is a full-fledged boarding school, but nothing matches what she remembered. For what? Has the story already changed? No, the change was supposed to start right here. She works as a maid, but the attack still happened. The scenario has already begun, but the heroine is not in her place. Manga feels dizzy. She needs to make sure what is really happening because this is too serious. The Demon King exists in this world, and if the saint does not fulfill her role properly, the world may end. Meanwhile, the same Demon King has possessed a dog and is lazily dozing. Of course, Manga had no idea about this. The next morning, Celeste says that she will be the one to teach her. That day, Manga instantly tenses up. No matter how many times she sees that face, it still remains the heroine, Celeste Regent Beers. She has black hair, and even now she is in a maid's uniform. Manga jumped when Celeste called her again and quickly apologized, promising to be more careful next time. Celeste smiles gently and tells her that when it's just the two of them, she doesn't have to be so formal. Manga freezes. She wonders, was the heroine really supposed to be like that? It doesn't resemble the image of the heroine she remembers at all. It seems as if she is dealing with a completely different person. A different person. This thought makes her reconsider. Could Celeste also be a reincarnate like her? Manga thinks there is only one way to find out. She cautiously asks if Celeste has ever heard of the Silver Priestess and the Five Elders. Celeste hesitates and asks if it's some kind of story. When Manga sees that there is no reaction on her face, she becomes even more puzzled, while Celeste recalls that Anna once asked her the same question and begins to wonder if it is some popular story in the royal capital. Manga quickly says it's nothing and changes the subject, but inside she still thinks if Celeste is not reincarnated, then why does the heroine work as a maid? In the end, Manga decides to ask directly and asks why she became a maid. A gentle expression appears on Celeste's face. Her eyes sparkle, her cheeks barely blush, and she answers that it is because she loves maids. Manga is completely stunned. Celeste happily begins to talk about it, explaining that she has admired maids since childhood. After she took a vow to her deity, she gained the ability to use maid magic. Manga becomes even more confused because unfamiliar words come from her mouth. Seeing her embarrassed expression, Celeste quietly laughs and says that she hasn't properly explained it yet. She tells Manga that today she will talk about the magic she created. Having heard the explanation, Manga now definitely knows. Celeste is truly a heroine. Although the plot is just beginning, she already perfectly masters the magic of the saint and has also fully mastered the role of a servant. Mika still does not know if Celeste is a reincarnator, but it is clear that she is the one who made the situation change. If so, Mika cannot help but wonder what is happening now at the academy. Soon there will be an incident with the Witch of Envy, and she anxiously thinks, will everything really turn out well? This concludes today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and write a comment if you want another part. She instantly recognizes him too, but doesn't have time to answer. Paula runs into the room and shifts attention to her, asking why he is even sleeping here. Paula. She looked closely, named the size, and told him, "You really don't remember, do you?" She reminded him that she said she would introduce him to her friend. He went into the living room to wait for them, but when they joined, she again said she would introduce him to her friend. When he joined, he was sleeping soundly. He looked completely confused and said he was probably more tired than usual, but that was a blatant lie. The applied electric attack turned out to be a memory eraser, which with a shock cut out certain memories. The spell is still in development, so its effect and duration are unknown, but fortunately Paula was nearby, and when Lectus woke up she sorted everything out and then introduces. He says that this is Celeste's Melody and that they have just met. She bows before him and sincerely says, "Nice to meet you," and he looks at her tea. Thinking how beautiful she is, a simple hello, and every movement and word of hers carries such grace. Lectes recalls the Count's order. He doesn't care who will be his partner, the main thing is that Lectes finds someone's. She is not suitable to be near him, a person who can hold themselves in public is needed. These words echo in his head as he quietly watches her. Is it really worth asking her? Count Rittelberg. The Berg holdings in the north of the kingdom were once among the largest in the country, but when the previous count went bankrupt, most had to be sold. And since then, the Ruttelberg family has remained in people's eyes as bankrupt nobles. After several decades, the family debt was finally paid off, but they are still very poor. Even in poverty, the count's care for the people of his estate brought him great support from the locals. Last year's poor harvest, his decision to reduce taxes so that people would not die of hunger, is still fresh in the memory of those he saved. And now, loyalty to his people brought him a position in the chancellor's office, the highest administration of the kingdom. The family is headed by Hughes Rittelberg, a man who himself knew what poverty was. When Lucina's parents arrived at the estate, they froze, looking at him with distrust. For a moment, they even thought they had the wrong address. Celeste stands on the threshold and greets them with a graceful bow, and the couple exchanges. His gaze becomes embarrassed. Just then, Lucina runs outside, shining at the sight of her parents, and the father says with relief that he feels better because he sees that she is fine, and that he was worried sending her alone to the capital, but... However, Lucina's joy instantly fades, anger covers her face, she pushes her father who looks confused. She says to him. She tells him that she does not intend to cause anything irreversible, but for what he has done, at least this he deserves, and when he asks what he means, she looks at him with anger and says that it is about this very estate. She accuses him of sending her into ruins without even checking their condition. Her mother, looking around, exclaims that the estate is beautiful, and her mother, equally stunned, agrees and says that it is unbelievable that this is even ours. Diana exclaims that it's all because of Melody she fixed everything. If it weren't for her, they would have been stuck in a creepy trash heap full of spiders. Celeste smiles and tells them that she is very pleased to meet them. Both look at her with cue. They cast interested glances, turned to the daughter and saw she looked like a real princess. Offended, she said they only noticed it now. Her mother then. Then they ask where she got that new dress. Lucina says it's not new, it's the same one Melody gave her last year. The mother insists it's definitely new, but Lucina insists that Melody altered it and that she should ask Melody to do the same with her clothes. Everyone is shocked. Shocked, the mother asks how she fixed it. Celeste looks away and hastily changes the subject, saying that lunch is ready. Lucina gestured for her parents to follow her, said she would explain everything in more detail at lunch, gave her father a sharp look and told him to think about what he had done. The father The author recalls that an older woman used to serve here before, and asks if she hired a second maid, and Lucina explains that the first one retired due to back pain, and that Melody took his place. Then he asks who just finished preparing lunch. Luciano answers, Melody, of course. Who else? Both parents were confused. The father objected that Melody was with them the whole time, and Lucina muttered that she hadn't had to do it for a long time, but today she asked Melody to do it to explain less. He asked again. What exactly? What? Soon his curiosity will be answered right on the table. There are 3 of them. The father, with a trembling voice, asks if they are triplets. Lucina tells him to wait a minute, he will soon stop trying to understand it. One by one wild sounds emerge, the melody of a wine glass. A wild, weather derv melody appears, and this is already the second time. For the second time this month, the Rudelberg mansion explodes with screams. In a few days, Celeste asks Lucina if she is really sure she forgot nothing. Lucina says she took everything out of the bag and packed it again, just checked once more. Her mother sadly adds that they would very much like to take her with them, but then they will definitely tell how bravely Lucina behaved. Lucina protests. It is just a ceremony of anxiety, she is fine and soon everything will pass. Instantly, Celeste became a permanent part of the Rudelberg family, returning to them. Having seen them off from the estate, Celeste feels quiet relief. She is pleased that the lord and lady accepted her. She notices how she is gradually getting used to the rhythm of the new job, and reminds herself that she must finish cleaning the room before their return. But when she approaches the table, her gaze catches the certificate of admission to the Royal Academy, an official paper with a warning. Show it on the day of admission, otherwise they may not let you in. Her thoughts fly to her past life, and she again sees that flight when 2 strangers asked to sit next to her. She was surprised that their parents allowed them to go abroad together at such a young age, but they were quickly kicked out. They hurriedly explained that they were not a couple at all, but came as part of a tour group. Asakura then took out a gamepad and, smiling, said that this was a prize in a raffle, the first edition of a famous game, and 2 tickets for a tour around Great Britain. Korita agreed to be her +1, a companion, because his younger sister dreamed so much of going, but their parents did not allow 2 underage girls to travel alone. Lonely Abroad, this game Silver Saint and the 5 Elders, a romantic simulator for girls, especially popular among middle and high school students. After the death of her mother, the heroine is taken by her father, and she suddenly finds herself in the role of a count's daughter instead of her former commoner fate. She is ordered to enter the Royal Academy in the capital, where various adventures and trials await her. The story begins on the day of the school initiation. Christopher, one of the main suitors of the main character, bumps into the heroine, and then everything seems to fall into place by itself. And when Christopher crashes into her, he apologizes and anxiously asks if everything is all right. Celeste mumbled that she was in such a hurry that she didn't notice him. Christopher looks at her intently. He looked at her for a long time, then cleared his throat and apologized, admitting that he probably mistook her for someone else, and asked what the maid was doing in such a place. Celeste explained that she came to bring an item her lady forgot at home, and he pointed to the waiting room Before leaving, she stops and asks if he is also a freshman, noting that it might get late if he doesn't hurry. Christopher politely smiles and assures her that he will be there soon. While she walks away, Max notices him and calls out anxiously, "What are you doing here?" And Christopher throws him a look. He threw him a sharp, irritated look. Max. Max reminds him that he must go to the ceremony immediately this year. He is the one to deliver the student speech. But Christopher refuses and insists that he cannot go because he must wait for her right here. Max protests, insisting that the Marquis's daughter is already in the hall and she is his future fiancée, but Christopher just shakes his head and says that it's not about her. Even if he allowed it, His Majesty would not agree. Muttering under his breath about that damned heroine, the saint, he noticed that she was gone. Instead, he came across a dark-haired maid, unexpected and striking, but not at all the silver-haired heroine he was expecting. It was then. Suddenly Anna appears and asks if there is a problem, smiling at her Fia. Beyoncé reminds Christopher that he cannot miss the ceremony, emphasizing its importance. To herself she curses him. How could he miss that damned heroine during this? He wants to say in his defense, he was exactly where he was supposed to be and she simply did not show up. Corrida and now known as Christopher and Anna Marie, they knew what world they had ended up in. Both retained memories of the past about the Otomo game, about the Silver Saint, and about the Five Vows. And the most terrible. If everything continues like this, the long-sealed King of Demons will revive. And without the saint, the heroine of this story, the whole world will perish. Christopher, in panic, tells them that he was waiting for the heroine, but she did not come. What will they do? If this is not fixed, everyone will die. Max is sure, if it were not for such cases, he would be the perfect heir to the throne. And Mary is shocked. She cannot believe that this guy is the main love interest. This Otomo game, the story in that fantasy world, never came to life, or it came to life, but without any heroine to lead it. Meanwhile, Lucina shouts that it turns out she needs a partner for the ball tonight, otherwise she will not be able to go. Don't go? Every year on the night of the Royal Academy's entrance ceremony, a spring ball is held so that children of noble families can debut in society. 15-year-old Lucina Huters makes her debut this very night, but the spring ball has one rather strange condition, which is, the essence is simple: every young lady debuting must be accompanied by a man. Celeste says she does not recall Lucina's parents talking about such a thing, and Lucina adds that this is because supposedly men could go alone. And when her mother was already dating her father, none of them had to think about it and simply forgot that it was a rule. And with that, today's video ends. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Write in the comments if you want another part. Their maid melody is a real rarity. On the eve of the spring ball, someone suddenly noticed that they had missed something: the rule that every young lady debuting must be accompanied by a man. Of course, since Melody's magic and skills had saved them more than once, they immediately went to ask her for help. But remembering Melody is new in the capital, and it is strange why someone thought she knew anyone here. Yet surprisingly, she immediately found the right person, and everyone was so relieved and happy that no one asked questions. She stands, cheeks burning, because Celeste, on the other side of the road, conveniently forgets to say that the boy in front of her is the chancellor's son. On the other side of the yard, Corrida grabs handfuls of hair, walks in circles in panic, and whines as if the sky is about to fall. "Why is there no heroine?" he exclaimed. They cry as if fate had personally betrayed them, insisting that their toast is burnt, crispy, and utterly doomed. Sakura silenced him in her only way with several sharp blows that knocked him off his feet. She exhales and calmly twists her wrist while he insists that she almost stabbed him. She steps forward, and with a slight smile says that she actually could have done it. Maybe then someone with a real backbone would have been reborn in the heir to the throne. She tells him to pull himself together because he is one of the main romantic options. Christopher, or rather Corrida, the day they met, Anna and Crown Prince Christopher met eyes, and memories of their past lives and the roles they played surged simultaneously. Anna bit her finger and, finally understanding the real problem, thought, the main heroine is still Mia, but why, if this is clearly the world of the Silver Saint and the Five Oaths? Christopher looks like he's about to tear his hair out and says that's exactly why he's panicking. If Mia doesn't show up here, if the true heroine never comes, then each of them will become food for demons, and she is their only hope. Silver SD and the Five Oaths is a classic dating simulator where you decide what the heroine does and says, causing the plot to branch. The action takes place in a school with lots of mini-games like exams and school festivals, and most importantly, the game has RPG elements. The Demon King and the Chosen One who can defeat him. This dark creature, sealed by ancient magic long ago, stares into the void and begins to break free from its bonds at the very moment the heroine enters the school. Only the protagonist, who will one day inherit the magic of the mysterious maiden named Silver Saint, can defeat it. But both the Dark One and the Saint have been erased by history, so the heroine doesn't even suspect what power she is destined to receive, and the seal that held this great evil down is slowly weakening, causing waves of strange events at the school. As if in response to the return of the Dark's power, the heroine's holy powers gradually begin to awaken. Later, she sneaks into the ancient library, a place only saints are allowed, and there learns the truth about the power of the saints, the return of the Dark, and the holy war meant to drive out the forces of darkness. When she grows close to the Chosen Ones, various puppets of the Dark chase her. Even Lady Anna Marie falls under mind control, and spies from a neighboring kingdom lie in wait. The heroine will have to fight formidable enemies until finally the dark itself returns. And so when it already seems that all is lost, the heroine's great oath together with the love she so carefully nurtured awakens in her the power of an ancient saint who punishes evil. A sincere vow for herself, and for another everything is ready for the holy maiden, this silver blessing. And so the dark is defeated, the world is saved, the heroine lives happily until the end of her days, finishes her studies without any problems and marries her beloved. Anna tells him that if everything goes like in the game, he will eventually return to power. But if by that time they still have not gained the power of the saint, it is the end for them, and then she stabs him. She waves a sheet of paper in front of his face and shows the newly posted list of students, saying that this is how one can check if the heroine enrolled. Christopher almost tears the paper in half, scanning it with his eyes and sharply asking what this even means, and Anna, suddenly serious, replies that it means exactly that. The heroine of their story, Cecilia Legendbart, did not study at their academy at all. She says that she even inquired with her contacts in the trade guild. Count Legendbart has not bought any female hygiene products lately, and this is a very alarming sign. He panics even more and asks if this means that the Count still has not found Cecilia and Anna. She says that this is exactly what follows from the evidence. He exclaims that at least they know her name, silver hair and azure eyes are rare, so she will definitely be found, but Annika. Even if these are meetings about hair, the name Cecilia will not help you. Celia, the name the Count gives her only after he adopts her mother. Mama was a servant, and in this seemingly medieval world, illegitimate children have it tough, so he renamed her to quell the scandal, and the entire backstory was simply brushed off in the game's lore. Anna groans. Before their plane crashed, they were just about to get a bonus story with all the details. And now she finally has a chance to see their sweet heroine in 3D, but the girl doesn't appear at all. She laments that she was supposed to see that charming, mysterious smile with her own eyes, but instead she has to stand and stare. She looks every day at Christopher's ugly mug. At his dumb skinny face, Christopher, offended, stammers and asks why she is so mean to him and Anna. Hannah, completely ignoring him, adds that she still hisses elect with him. She actually likes his presence. He is slender and attractive in all the right places, unlike Christopher. Mortally offended, Christopher explodes that he would always choose the heroine over her fat, fleshy cushions, calling her a trembling fan service character. She demands to know if he is humiliating her now because of her appearance, and he sharply replies, "So what she started at first, right?" The door opens and Max enters. He freezes next to Christopher, red-faced, all sweaty and completely. He completely misunderstood the situation, muttering to himself when he squints and closes his eyes, then asks why the two of them refused to make their engagement official when they seem to have been attached to each other all the time. Without giving any explanations, they rushed out of the room, and Max stood, watching them leave and muttering that the couple is really strange, always together, but stubbornly avoiding official engagements. Christopher and Anna in this game were more than just potential fiancés, so they had to be very careful. They had to work very hard in the shadows to avoid getting attached, but Max, of course, had no idea about this. A few hours earlier, Max was sitting in the side garden of the academy when he turned and saw Celeste standing there, embarrassed. She asked if he was Mr. Max, and at that moment recognition. She blooms and shines, saying that so much time has passed. He replies that he is also glad to see her, and glancing at the uniform, assumes that her dream of becoming a maid has finally come true. She confirms this with enthusiasm and thanks him again for the former help. She notices his clothes. He looks like a second-year student. The realization strikes her and she jumps up and pants, murmuring that if he is a student here, then he is probably from the royal family. Max immediately waved it off and calmed her down, saying everything is fine, they are friends, so she has no reason to be formal. He asks what she is doing here, emphasizing that she does not work at the academy. She thinks she could ask him the same after all, only freshmen come to this ceremony. But she waits. She explains that she currently serves in the house of Count Radelberg, and the young lady forgot something important at home. Max raised his eyebrows. And the Radelbergs too, aren't they, those poor nobles with the haunted manor? The Rudelberg Manor in the capital had a bad reputation among the nobility. It was known as the Phantom Mansion. But Max remembered that the Count himself was always impeccably polite when they greeted each other in his father's office. The chancellor's, however. So Celeste is new in service. Will she really manage there? He says that having an aristocratic family as first employers is probably difficult, and if something worries her, he will gladly help. She smiles and assures him that there is no need to worry. She feels great, and everyone in the house is very kind. Max relaxes, smiles in response, thinking he worried for nothing, tells her he is glad to hear that, but then she clears her throat. She, hesitating, cleared her throat, and he immediately straightened up. He straightens up and asks if something is wrong. For a moment he silently curses his optimism, or is she really being mocked? Instead, Celeste confesses, her beloved young lady still has no escort. Max blinks, repeats and accompanies. She decisively nods and says, "Yes, that is the problem. If it comes to that," she adds, I can always dress as a man and personally escort her. Max bursts out laughing, unable to hold back. Celeste puffs up, demands to know what is so funny about it, insisting that he sh. He shouldn't be laughing when she is terribly worried for her young lady. This is almost a matter of life and death. He immediately apologizes and says he is only glad to see how close and friendly she is to her ward. She beams with pride, smiling, then turns everything up to the maximum. Max asks why he himself wouldn't escort the young lady. To apologize for laughing at her embarrassment, he says it would be quite fair. Celeste looks at him in surprise and asks if he is really sure. He smiles and says, "Why not? I was going to the ball myself, and if it helps you I will gladly escort you arm in arm all evening." Celeste sincerely thanks him and rushes off, saying she must immediately inform the young lady. Max watches her leave and notices that every expression of hers is so sincere, bright, and warm like a little patch of sunshine. Later, Max simply got tired of the many women who courted him only for his beauty or because of his father's status. Maxwell had been famous for his beauty since childhood. He got used to avoiding them a bit, though he never came to hate women in general, but not. She did not even flinch at his appearance, and learning that he was noble, did not suddenly start weaving selfish plans. With her, he feels strangely safe. He catches himself thinking whether this is love, but no, at least not of that kind. When she says thank you again, he beams and says, "What are friends for?" Then he Finn catches himself thinking, what could the daughter of Count Rudelberg be like? Returning to the present, he greets the Count's family and his daughter. He is too stunned to respond and mentally says, "Though poor, to me they look quite noble." Later that evening, Max arrives in his carriage to meet Lucina. As soon as she steps out, completely embarrassed and with a blush on her ears, he almost loses his composure. He has never seen anyone so beautiful before, and he restrains laughter with all his might. He grabs her hand and says they must not be late, they have a ball. Tiana finally says with a shy smile that she really hopes they will have a good time. Before boarding, she beams a smile and waves to Celeste. Celeste gracefully bows and wishes her young lady a wonderful evening. Lucina's parents also decide to leave, but the mother pauses for a moment and turns to Celeste, reminding her of what she said about her own event this evening. Celeste confirms this and apologizes for leaving the estate unattended, but in Lucina's. Donna's mother quietly laughs and says not to worry, they want her to go and have a good time. Since she came to this house, she hasn't taken a single day off, so she shouldn't stay up too late. Celeste changes into her usual clothes and lets her hair down, going out into the evening. She waits near the meeting place, thinking that the man said he would lend her a dress suitable for the occasion, but hopes he won't make extra trouble for her. In a moment, Lect appears and asks if she has been waiting long so. Celeste smiles and says no, she just arrived. Paula, everything. She is already standing there with her arms crossed and calls Celeste, "Come quickly, we have work." Later, Celeste swallowed and whispered, "It can't be, she doesn't believe it. How did she not notice this?" Paula looks admiringly at her reflection, can't believe that such a luxurious maid was hiding right under her nose all this time, and beams with pride, saying that her family used to work in the cosmetics trade, mostly with women's cosmetics. Celeste touches her face again, stunned, and asks if it really needs to go that far. She is only going because Sir Lect cannot come without a partner. He said he would come. He usually came in, greeted his boss, and immediately went home. Paula mutters about that lousy boss and urges her. They are hurrying because they are late, and Celeste is a true professional. Lex approaches, his whole face is burning red, and he clenches his eyes closed as if he had just been hit. He will not move until she calls him by name, and then he suddenly said that they should leave immediately when the carriage started moving. Stepping aside, Paula looks back and mutters that this plan, say hello and run home, is not as simple as he said. A little later, sitting in the carriage, Celeste blinks confusedly and asks what he meant. Where is this carriage heading? Apparently she misheard. Lex still does not look her in the eyes, muttering something under his breath. The castle hums, she repeats distrustfully castle, and demands to know why. He explains. It is taken for granted that this is a spring party, a ball at the royal castle. She froze in horror. How can this seem so ordinary? He is taking her to the same spring ball where her own lady is going to make a formal debut. Lex tries to explain that the boss insisted on his presence, and Celeste realizes with growing horror that she has been completely deceived. He adds that he is sorry, but she is the only person he knows who meets his boss's criteria. She chokes and asks what kind of servant also attends the same ball as a guest as her lady. That never happens. She will never go. Like murmurs, what a pity. Paula hadn't slept for 3 nights in a row working on the dress that Celeste now wears. Celeste Fiori. Lect feels like screaming in despair, but Lect continues, his voice becoming even sharper, and says, "A whole 3 days and nights, and no one will see it. What a pity." Celeste fell silent, although she wanted to argue. The quality of the dress and the care Paula put into it were indisputable. And she knows he is right. Finally, she gives in and says she will return the ball with him, but she will need to change clothes, otherwise her lady will find out. He asks her if she is sure, saying the makeup must be well concealed. She looks completely different. and yet so sharp. She sharply tells him not to be a fool and he blushes. Paula's. The skill of doing makeup is no joke, but even if men can be fooled, a woman's keen eye will instantly see through it. She also. He still mumbles that there would be no reason to worry at all if he had explained everything from the very beginning. He asks if it really works that way, and admits he was afraid that if he told her she would refuse. She tells him. She tells him yes, she would have done just that. He says that. He regrets it. Looking back, he sees. Her black hair and eyes are so rare that they alone could give him away. The makeup won't be enough. Suddenly, Celeste rises from her seat, and Lect involuntarily leans back as she looms over him. With a determined expression, his face flushed red as she leans even closer, quite close. So he forgets how to breathe, and whispers in his ear that if he insists on taking her to the royal castle, she will have to borrow his hair and eye color. When the king announced that the spring ball had officially begun, the huge doors of the hall opened. There were 3 rows, each larger than the previous, and the largest were reserved for the royal family and the highest nobility, but only on this debut night they opened for all nobles, and Anna and Christopher enter through the magnificent doors. The crowd turns, waves rushing through the hall, as cheers sound in honor of the crown prince in his ceremonial attire. Next to him, Lady Anna shines brighter than rumors ever claimed, a group. The girls watch her pass and one whispers that Anna. She has grown so much that it is hard to believe she is only 15. She is of such stature that she seems on a completely different level. Envy looks foolish when a girl. That girl is the very burning temptress, all. Assume that one day she will become queen, Christopher lay. He leans toward Anna and whispers, if the rules of the game are followed, the heroine will be announced last. Anna says yes in the game, but since the heroine herself has not yet appeared, probably some other noblewoman will be announced. Christopher mutters that if she is not here, then the world has already gone off script. Maybe everything will happen completely differently. Anna forced a smile and told him not to rush. The ball has barely begun. No one knows how deep the disagreements run. She warns him, stay alert and be ready for anything. Without the heroine in the game, the story has no track. Anything can happen next, then. And then the announcer proclaimed the next name, Lucina Stern. Tiana steps forward, nerves fluttering. But she reminds herself that everything will be fine because Celeste has already credited her both the dance and her elegant walk. After all, Max beside her looks at her with a gentle smile and calls her by name, but as the crowd knows. As soon as they notice her, whispers begin. How could she even afford a dress for such a ball? Another girl hopes that no one will consider her the same just because her rank is formally the same. If they had even a drop of noble pride, they would have stayed home. Someone whispers that he almost feels sorry for the fool accompanying her. His only chance to step through those doors is with her. The words instantly die. Every mouth closes as soon as they recognize the young man next to Lucina, the chancellor's son. Anna froze in shock and quietly whispered that Lord Max is already on his way to becoming the next chancellor, like his father. She heard that invitations are pouring in from aristocrats of all ranks, and he came with Lucina, and that shook her. In the game, Max comes alone. It is here at this ball that he meets the heroine and makes the first move. He offers to escort her to the next event. Christopher's jaw tightens, he boils. That traitor told him he has no close girlfriends. When Max and Lucina enter the hall, the air tightens, a suffocating silence falls. They approach the king and queen with tense, awkward formality. Anatra trembles, barely restraining herself. Lucina is exactly that genuine, charming cutie she adores. She wants to clap her on the back hard. Well done, what a find. And Christopher trembles for a completely different reason. That traitor can go straight to hell. Why is his companion exactly his type? How? When the young ladies enter, the orchestra begins to play. The first dance, it is a waltz, as. By tradition, the king and queen open the ball, and the rest of the guests pick up their pace. This is their chance to make a brilliant debut in society and show themselves in all their beauty. But all eyes were fixed only on these two couples, Anna and Christopher and Lucina and Maxwell. No one even glanced at the other ladies socially. This was a loud failure. Chancellor approaches Count Rudelberg and enthusiastically says that his daughter is so charming. He admits that when he heard that his son, who always comes to these parties alone, brought a companion for some older gentleman, little fell from his chair. And with that princess, as if from a fairy tale, no wonder he is enchanted. The Count nervously says he hopes they did not cause him any trouble. The Chancellor replies, on the contrary, he is relieved, he suspects. At first it seemed that he was trying to gain his favor through his son, but seeing them now, I seriously doubted it. Almost everyone knows about the Rudelbergs' financial problems, so they have few allies but no unpleasant financial parasites. The Chancellor smiled crookedly and thought, here she is, the girl who caught the eye of his detached son. She will make him think a lot. Later, the furious Beatrice and Malaria burst in and demand explanations from Lucina, insisting that they are her best friends and she has no secrets from them. Lucina stammers, froze suddenly, and Max, completely abandoned, looks from the side. Renef. Some girl approaches Christopher and, quietly smiling, asks if he will join her for the next song. Christopher politely smiles but thinks to himself that he probably looks like a boy for hire. Meanwhile, the boy. A boy appeared before Anna and asked if she would like to dance with him in the next dance. Anna smiles gracefully, but inside she wonders if she looks like a prostitute. When the first words sounded, people began to dance each in their own will, and usually it is now that a few stylish, relaxed guests of the ball gradually appear. The vice-chancellor stands alone, lost in thought, when the chancellor approaches and asks if something is wrong. He replies that he was just wondering if Lect has already arrived. The chancellor knowingly smiles and says that is correct. This time he strictly ordered Lect to appear, as if a human sacrifice. The count is completely confused, does not know what they mean. Meanwhile, the vice-chancellor's thoughts fly away. He wonders if they found his daughter, or perhaps she became part of that happy circle of girls. He wonders if he will ever meet her at all. And Selena, he misses her so much that life without her seems unbearably lonely. How he would like to see her. A sudden movement catches his attention. But her golden hair shines like stars, and the white dress is so pure as if it could wash away the sins of the whole world. She is beautiful, but a hint of mystery makes her unattainable. Although Anna has a seductive beauty that enchants like a siren and Lucia. She had a fairy-like charm so sweet that she seemed to fit in a teacup. To everyone who saw her, it was a different kind of beauty, and in unison one voice sounded, "Angel." An angel walks among people, the chancellor, and notes that there are enough bells at the ball for the flea. In a barely noticeable moment, the vice-chancellor noticed the girl, and in his excessive sadness wondered if she was his Selena, but he quickly drives away this thought. Hair color is one thing, he tells himself, but even the craftiest guy could never change Selena's unmistakable blue eyes. Lex approaches and apologizes for being late. The vice-chancellor waves his hand, says it's all right, and even jokes that being a little late might work in his favor. Then he glances at the girl on Lex's arm and asks who she is. She smiles. She politely smiles, introduces herself as Cecilia, and warmly greets him again. He is stunned again. It seems fate decided to cruelly joke this very night. Cecilia is exactly the name he dreamed of giving his daughter to welcome her into the noble world. Meanwhile, Lucina's friends whisper among themselves. One secretly points with her finger and, noticing the girl's glamour, asks, "What is this? What kind of otherworldly beauties are these this year, Milyara?" And others seem completely invisible against their background. Lucina squints and instantly recognizes her from any angle. It's Celeste. The strongest weapon is a polite smile. Feeling Lucina's gaze, she convinces herself that she doesn't know her right. Wait, all the girls around suddenly start asking for her attention. Lect raises his hand and sincerely explains that she is not a noblewoman, and this is her first time at such an event. The lady nearby. Around they were sneering. The very same boy who never appeared, let alone with a girl, suddenly came with some girl he had just met, and this made her wonder if Cecilia was somehow special. While the crowd whispered and gossiped, Lect frowned to himself. This was exactly why he preferred to come alone. These women were relentless gossips. Christiana, Celeste's aunt, and Hamia, Maxwell's mother, were watching the scene closely. Lect looked at Cecilia and noticed something amazing. Although the noble ladies teased her, she remained calm, not embarrassed at all, and took it all lightly. Lect had no idea that behind Celeste's seemingly calm smile hid a chaotic ocean of turmoil. In reality, she was not just worried, she was shaken to the core. She felt it not because of the sharpness of the ladies in front, but because of the icy gaze of the one standing behind. Feel the gaze, or rather, feel how Lucina addresses her. Lucina's mother smiles. Her daughter is the same age, so she tries to introduce them and suggests meeting. Best immediately thought, no, although the Countess has good intentions, this is the worst thing that could happen. She cannot allow it to happen. She must find a way to get through this. Quickly she turns to Lect, cheeks burning, and asks if he wants to dance with her. Even Even he froze in surprise, seeing her sudden boldness. Although what Celeste just did was only an attempt to save face. Her despair is considered terribly rude. Brazenly interrupting a noble lady is so humiliating, and in this culture, a man must ask a woman to dance. When a woman does it, she is considered openly vulgar. He agrees, takes her by the hand, and they awkwardly move off. They step onto the dance floor. The ladies watch. Anyone watching couldn't help but smile. The couple was so sweet that everyone just turned a blind eye. Christiana leaned toward Max's mother and remarked that they had stumbled upon a real goldmine of entertainment, hidden right under their noses. Max's mother nodded. She was grieving the loss of a new catch, but it turned out an even better catch was standing before them. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Lucina stands with eyes blazing. She couldn't help but notice that Celeste dodged her, and even her friends noticed. They asked in surprise why she was so angry, and she sharply waved off with a brief "it's nothing," and then she slaps Tomax and asks if he will dance with her. I repeat, in this world it doesn't work like that. A woman must passively wait until a man asks, maybe just hint a little. This behavior is outrageous, downright unforgivable. And yet again, she was so cute that no one cared. Tiana almost drags Max onto the dance floor. Both her friends stand nearby, mouths slightly open, completely shocked at how boldly she took the initiative. One of them feels that Lucina is about to do something especially interesting, so decides to stay aside for now. On the dance floor, Celeste's thoughts race she must move away from that girl. After this dance, she plans to quietly slip through the crowd and go straight home, disappear into the chaos of the ball before anyone notices her absence. But when she glanced at Lecton, she noticed something strange. He was too tense, almost unnaturally stiff, and she couldn't help but quietly ask if he was nervous. Lect says no, but his thoughts say otherwise. Of course he is tense, he thinks to himself, how could it be otherwise? The woman he likes just forcibly pulled him onto the dance floor, and any man would tense up in such a situation. Then, as if suddenly enlightened, he realizes what he is thinking about the woman he likes. Could it be that he actually feels something for her? The thought catches him by surprise and a light blush rises on his cheeks. Celeste, noticing his hesitation, smiles gently and asks if he doesn't like to dance. She tells him not to worry, assuring him that it's quite simple if he remembers the basics. All that's left is to relax and enjoy the movement. She thought to herself, although a small guilty part of her whispered that maybe she was a hypocrite after all. Earlier, when she was teaching that young lady, she was so serious and meticulous. Then in an instant, he suddenly pulled her tightly into his embrace, leaving her for a moment. For a moment she froze in surprise, but when the music began to swirl around, she noticed that he danced exceptionally well, and with slight admiration admitted to herself that, strangely enough, it was really fun. They begin to move in perfect synchrony. She boldly makes a few decisive moves to test his skill and secretly wonders if he can handle her challenge, and to her growing surprise, he manages every turn and curve with impeccable precision. The others present froze, eyes wide with admiration. Her cloak billows behind her like the wings of a heavenly angel. A bright streak of color flashed in motion, attracting the gaze of everyone who happened to look at her. Meanwhile, Anna wearily plops down on the sofa and sighs quietly. With a slight irritation in her voice, she asks Christopher how many more men will come up to invite her to dance. Every time she just slips away for a moment to say hello. Another fool with an empty hand and a dream approaches nearby. And Christopher silently watches, with a bitter smile, understanding that he has the same problem. And here comes yet another fool with an empty hand and a dream. Here he is just hoping, simply hoping, to invite her to dance himself. But he cannot say that it is not fun to dance all night in an endless parade of eager suitors, in a row of beautiful young ladies, all of whom desire and desperately want to dance with him, as if their glances were on her. He looks at her a little shyly and quietly whispers, "Thank you for the wonderful dance." Surprised, she blinks at the unexpected gratitude and politely mumbles that if he will excuse her, she must go. Just as she begins to leave, the announcer's voice rings out across the hall, clearly spreading over the polished floor. The man announced that he hopes the night festivities so far have brought everyone pleasure and joy, and for the next song they will do something different, something unusual. Soon the annual spring ball, a dance for same-sex couples, Celestina. She suddenly let out a piercing squeak from sudden horror as a cold shiver ran down her spine. Lucina appeared almost impossibly close, and the younger girl leaned forward, quietly whispering that she likes dancing with her. Christopher looks at the same couple dancing and suddenly realizes this is a mini-event where the plot changes depending on which girl the heroine will dance with. You can dance with friends you found at the initiation ceremony. Their friendship jumps up, and they will support you more throughout the story. If you choose to dance with a rival, the hostility scale will drop, and several scenes will become easier. Who they choose, everything is decided by their play style and the path they want to take. Less important, dances between boys do not affect anything, but girls go crazy over them. He imagines himself with Max, how they look into each other's eyes with quiet tension, and just then Anna starts teasing him, her lips trembling with a smile. Pointing this out, he quickly interrupts her and says, "No more words that I am finishing this game." The same couples dance as if this is the last happy moment before the night turns for the worse. When the last note fades, they will have to deal with the next event. They have been preparing for years, but now there is no heroine to lead them. The only person capable of resolving everything peacefully has disappeared. If they are not careful, this event may not go without casualties, and Anna thinks she will simply have to be on alert all the time. She froze when Christopher called her and asked, "Why is she jumping up like a happy schoolgirl, Anna?" Anna says she can't help herself. Finally, she manages to invite that sweet Lucina to dance. This will be the brightest moment of her entire night, and nearby two losers who misheard the schedule and don't even suspect that the dance of that very pair has already begun. The dance for people of the same sex is the main goal of the spring ball, to give new students of the Royal Academy a chance to meet and show off. But among all the shining faces and luxurious dresses stands out one special pair of girls. Another girl. Other girls look admiringly at Lucina and Celeste, saying that each of them is an incredible dancer on her own, but it's not just skill. Somehow they wonderfully complement each other. They must, after all, although the roles are reversed, they have been perfecting this very dance together for a very long time. Still, Celeste thought that this young lady had never played the male role before. West also notices that she just prevented her from doing exactly what she warned her about yesterday. She leads so as not to make a single mistake. This young lady really knows well what it means to take on a man's role. She truly absorbs everything she was taught, and not only that it even seems that she is having fun. Just a minute ago she was eager to run away, but now she is not so confident. Lucina. Donna is already having so much fun that her anger has faded. She decides for now to just enjoy the dance floor. Suddenly. Finally, everything around them exploded with light so dazzling that it was impossible to look at, and no one knew where it came from. A wave of anxiety swept through the crowd. Lucina immediately understood what had happened and cast a sharp glance at Celeste, trying to prevent her from making the situation worse. But Celeste was so caught up in the moment that she did not notice accidentally releasing her magic, causing a blinding spectacle. Lucina sharply stomped her heel on Celeste's foot. Jolt froze in surprise and exclaimed, "What is she doing?" Because stepping on a dance partner is the height of rudeness. Lucina sharply barked and warned that if she did not listen, she would send her somewhere worse, gesturing for her to look back, and literally began to spin in the dance. All this, it seems, is conveyed without words through their eyes. Celeste closes her eyes, concentrating and desperately trying to make the light disappear. When it finally subsides, the dance does not stop, and the crowd erupts in applause. Lect looked with a raised eyebrow and with slight surprise said, "What a strange spectacle," and the chancellor only nodded in confirmation. Indeed so. The vice-rector approaches Lecta and asks if Cecilia is with him. He replies that they separated during the dance for same-sex couples. He glanced at something in his hand, asked, "What is he looking at?" and his eyes widen when he sees this photo. The vice-chancellor admits it's strange. For some reason, Cecilia reminds him of Selena and he can't explain why. He admits he can't understand why. Different hair, different eyes. The mind is a strange thing, isn't it? Let looks worried and says he will go look for her. He imagines that Miss Lucina probably hid her somewhere alone to interrogate her, so he decides to check remote, secluded corners. When he thought about it, it dawned on him. He first met her in Averentian during the search for Miss Selena. Who could have imagined? The girl who wandered and got lost that day will turn out to be the one he thought he would fall in love with. He thinks she is 15 this year, but since she hasn't celebrated yet, he thinks she is 14. Damn, she is a whole 7 years younger than him, and even if they were the same age, would she want to be with him? Although he has known her for a short time, it is already clear. She is only interested in maids. Priority 1 did something, Priority 2 did something too, and Priorities 3, 4, and 5 also did something. And usually women quit this after marriage, so he can't imagine she would respond positively to his courtship. Impossible. Outside, he sees both girls sitting on the edge of the fountain. For a moment, he wonders if Lucina is angry at Celeste because she is here, but then Lucina notices him. She turns her head and throws a sharp look in his direction. He freezes instinctively. Tiana quietly says that today he gave her a wonderful evening, and for that she is grateful to him. But she adds, without even blinking, that if he deceives her like that again, she will personally make sure he pays for it. He instantly straightens up and replies, "Yes, Lady Lucina," mentally feeling that Lady Lucina is a bit frightening. When he remembered this, as if she recognized her at first sight, although Count Rittelberg and his wife paid no attention to it, it can't be. Play with this disguise. Who would believe that this girl is actually a dark-haired and dark-eyed maid? His inner voice asks, is he sure she is real? Is she really dark-haired and dark-eyed? He thinks and convinces himself. When he first met her in Trindavellas in Aberanton County near the border, her hair and eyes were dark then too, but the inner voice asks him again if he is sure that was the only time he saw her with black hair and black eyes. When they met again in the capital, he dozed off in the living room, and when she entered, his heart seemed to stop. Suddenly he was pierced by pain and he does not understand what is happening. He thinks it is just a coincidence. But as soon as the moonlight touched her, her hair dyed gold, shimmered almost like silver in his eye. His eyes widened in surprise. The legendary Count Bart had a beloved named Selena, who had a daughter Celeste. Celeste was supposed to have the same silvery hair as the Count and the same azure eyes as her mother. They had a portrait of Selena, which the Count lent them to help in the search. He also knew that Celeste was from the same area where Selena was eventually found, and that Selena left around the same time Celeste disappeared. Let knows magic allows her to change the color of her hair and eyes, and her hair is not really gold. In fact, that day he knew everything just by looking at her. His face was puzzled. That day in the capital, he did not meet her in the living room. Her hair was in the bathroom. Her eyes were silvery and azure. He did not doubt for a moment she seemed not to notice the storm in him. She smiled gently and said she was sorry that he had to come all the way here to find her when everyone paid so much attention to her hair and eyes. He did not notice, but the other facial features so strongly resembled Selena. The girl who herself left the territory around the same time Selena died, with silver hair and eyes of the same blue shade incredibly similar to Serena. Is there even the slightest chance that this is a coincidence, that she is not? No. He knows it is exactly her. It must be her. By some miracle, pure luck, he found her. Melody is actually Lady Celeste. But he staggered, suddenly overwhelmed by an anxious thought about what this might mean for his feelings, but quickly drives it away, repeating to himself that this is not the main thing. Melody wants to work as a humble maid, and if his lord finds out about her, this dream will shatter. And how to hide this from the master, to whom he swore loyalty and who so painfully longs to see her? What is he to do? He cannot come up with a solution that would make everyone happy. If it must happen this way, he suddenly wishes he had never seen her. Just a few minutes ago, Lucina asks if she is really no longer angry with him. She answered no. He apologized even before their arrival, and Lucina thought that since she had already forgiven him, she would probably spare him temporarily. 100 paper fans can wait. She smiles to herself, thinking how close it was. Lady Lucina was boiling with rage just a moment ago. Honestly, Lucina is glad to be here. She loved dancing with her, but the thought that it happened because of him ruins the whole vibe. Some coward who lied because he didn't have the courage to properly ask her out on a date. He's hitting on her, let him just try. Only over her dead body. She is hers. Lucina sharply turns to her and quietly asks if she sees him only as a friend. A friend? Celeste smiles gently and replies that yes, a very good friend. Lucina looks at her and thinks that this love is completely unrequited. It was the clearest and brightest friendzone she had ever seen in her life. As if Celeste doesn't despise him, and that's the problem. She loves him, but not that way. Suddenly she brightens and says that, speaking of friends, she met a nice girl named Paulia, a maid in his estate. Her faith. Her face slightly reddened as she explained that Paulia is a maid who does everything like she does, but her skills are impressive. You should see her with Celeste Gash's makeup brush. She is a true artist. She is so talented and creative. There is much to learn from her. Lucina looks at her emotionlessly and thinks, oh, he has no chance at all. Absolutely none. Of course, she wants him to fail, but at this moment she almost feels sorry for him. Suddenly Celeste realized she talked too much and apologized. Lucina waved it off, don't worry, and advised her to better return before the escort starts wondering where she disappeared to. Celeste quickly adjusts Lucina's dress, pulls here, smooths there, and only then lets her go. She stubbornly insists that the spell be checked once more. Lucina, with a trembling voice, asks if Celeste really put a protective talisman on her. Celeste softly assures that she did. After that, Lucina steps back. Celeste freezes, nervously looking around. She swore that someone was watching her closely, but no one is visible around. She rushed after Lucina and, trying to be as polite as possible, asks her to do a small favor. Would she agree, because she wants to cast another protective spell. Lucina says she doesn't mind, although she asks aloud why. Celeste only replies that a lady's senses must always be sharp. When Lucina asks which spell she cast this time, the last answer is quiet and confident. It is meant to sharpen one of her senses. This time she aims it at sight. Lucina approaches Max and apologizes for being late. He smiles and says there's no need to apologize. He is glad she is having fun. She smiles and suggests getting acquainted because she has a few friends she wants to introduce to him. She replies, all right. He looks around and says that the angel is not with her. She has left for now, she replies. He means Cecilia. She went home, he says. Really? That's a pity. He hoped to dance with her at least once. Her face reddens, she snorts, and says that now he is going to say that right in front of his companion. He looks surprised, but before laughing, she thought, how dare he laugh if just a minute ago he looked so beaten. Max is right. Lucina used him to get closer and decorate Melody, then dumped him. And now she has made a full 180-degree turn. He realizes he is mocking her, then he stops. She stopped laughing and said, or them. Suddenly she put her hand on her chest. The spell she cast on it began to react. She recalls Celeste's words. If someone sends her an evil look, she will see the light coming from that person. This is visible only to her. Celeste told her to look for the person from whom the light comes and to avoid them at all costs. She looks around and notices a boy who is looking at her with a strange smile. He thinks, what a scoundrel. More light appears and she suddenly realizes there is someone else there. It really responds to any hostility directed at her. Lucina has very little social experience, and many young people in such a position do not sense ill intentions from others, so Max thought he would have to protect her himself. But she, it seems, instinctively is wary of exactly those people he considered problematic. When he pondered, he realized, for the wife of an influential noble lady, this would be a wonderful trait. The woman holds a polite lady smile, feeling some hostility there and at the same time wondering why that girl is so beautiful. Beautiful, Max whispers to her that she is the young Duchess of Rinketer and says, they say that man is Count Season from the Finance Bureau, and he has already received a warning from the Bureau for harassing the maids who work here. She mumbles, so he rushes after the women. Max says that the lady is probably jealous of how she stole the show today. She says that the knight stole the show and her too. Max says she does not suspect it. Everyone expected that today the most eyes would be on the Crown Prince and Lady Victilium. After them, as they thought, the important guest was supposed to be Lady Rinkadorsh, is from a family that ranks immediately after. It was about the homeland, but look what happened instead. A young girl, whom the ball guests kindly called the fairy princess, performed a brilliant paired dance with a mysterious stranger whom everyone called the angel. Because of this, Lady Renkdal was almost completely unnoticed. Now it should be clear to her why she is so upset about her social debut. He warns, as soon as school starts tomorrow it will be a real disaster, because every student will closely watch every step of the fairy princess, big or small, and isn't that the complete opposite of what it means to be Lutherbroke? He tells her not to look down, smiles and repeats, "Don't look down." Don't worry, he will introduce her to some of his friends who will gladly help her, she says. His friends say, suddenly. Anna appears with a smile and says that she is pleased to personally meet the fairy princess. Standing next to her is Christopher, who says he is the heir to the crown of the kingdom. Completely confused, she stammers that it is a great honor for her to be in their presence. Max softly says that everything is fine and she doesn't need to be nervous around them. Thigh are actually much simpler than they seem, and Anna immediately rejects. Seriously. No, I don't think I ever pretended to be so arrogant. Then she turns to Lucina and asks who is the angel she danced with during the same paired dance. Lucina replied that she danced with Cecilia, both of them F. Shudders from shock at the mention of Cecilia. Anna immediately overwhelms her with questions, demands to know where Cecilia is now, immediately asks what she looks like, and before she can answer, Anna presses further place of birth surname. Max raises. He takes them by the hand and asks them to calm down. Lucina, looking embarrassed, replies that Cecilia has already returned home and she is blonde. Both shuddered again. They cannot accept the fact that her hair is the color of gold. Lucina asks if something is wrong, they tell her. For her it is nothing, but Anna still thinks, if Cecilia appeared here isn't she the heroine, but her hair is golden, not silver. There were rumors about her partner that he has legs like in the script, but she is not the vice-chancellor's daughter either. What could all this mean? She catches herself thinking, who is she really? Lucy, 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 Lucy. Lucina sincerely thanks everyone for taking care of her this evening. Anna says that at school they should also get along like this. Max smiles. He smiles and says that they quickly became friends. Maybe you should repeat the first year once more. The prince smiles and replies that there will be no problems if the prime minister agrees to it. Lucina mentally tells herself, despite all this he still did not come tonight. Great. At the spring ball, a big event was supposed to happen, an attack. According to the script, the attacker was to break through that window, but instead there is no trace that anything happened. After this, they will probably have to start from scratch and completely revise their plans for the future. Suddenly, Lucina's face pales. She realizes, in Celeste. The best spell is to react sharply as soon as something suddenly starts glowing aggressively, and it comes from above. She often remembers this. Celeste warns that it can confuse. Malice directed at someone nearby may seem directed exactly at her. As soon as she raises her eyes, the attacker sharply falls from the chandelier. His sword rose for a strike, and at that moment she realizes the strike is not for her. The blow aimed at her, she lunges forward, pushes the intended victim away, and takes the hit herself before falling to the floor. The ballroom froze. A wave of shock rippled through the crowd. Anna looks at Lucina in horror. How could she have let this happen? And that's all for today. Like and subscribe, leave a comment if you want another part. Meanwhile, Celeste returns to the Lutherberg estate already in uniform, later than expected. And a quiet anxiety tightens her chest. She needs to start preparations immediately to greet the family the moment they return. Her thoughts wandered aside. He behaves strangely on the way home. Walking through the mansion, she decides to clean the rooms again so that everything is fresh and cozy as soon as they return. If they get hungry, she will prepare some snacks and wine, judging by. They should return soon, so she can also brew some tea, but as soon as she reached for Lucina's cup, it slipped from her hands before she could grab it. As needed, on the other side, Lucina had already fainted. Her body could not endure, and the king immediately calls his guards, but his voice goes unanswered. None of. Closing them, they can break through the barrier, the realization. The creature strikes him so hard that he staggers back in shock and cannot believe his own eyes. Opposite him, the man speaks calmly, as if it is nothing, and asks if this is really the most powerful magic the kingdom's best court mage can boast of. This is the barrier of the demon king, relentless, absolute. He was lucky that Anna and Maxwell were nearby, and also critical. Lucina was politically wounded, and Buick was a servant. He grew up in a village of mages hiding from the world, but they were eventually discovered. Soldiers of a neighboring empire persecuted them for sport. When he was only 10, both parents died defending the village from the invasion, and he survived and, due to a natural inclination to magic from childhood, was sold into servitude. Besides being a living shield on the front line in a mercenary squad, he led a life of constant struggle. He was constantly beaten and humiliated both physically and verbally. When he turned 18, it was time for change. His mentor, burning with a desire to become famous in the kingdom of Theolos, set out to the largest and most dangerous zone filled with demons. The Great Vanagan Forest, and with a group of no more than 10 other mercenaries they stealthily entered the forest thanks to his magic. However, But they all died, only Buick and his teacher remained. The teacher survived only thanks to his magical power. The whole scheme. It was Buick's proposal. Unable to attack his lord due to the magic of enslavement, he lured him into the cruelest and wildest lands to exact his revenge. That was when Buick Kissel became. He became a vessel of the Demon King, and now has set his sights on people with royal blood who can completely remove the seal from the Demon King, or so it seems. That's how it happened, Christopher. Christopher quickly orders the guards not to stop attacking the barrier, even if the enemy is only slightly distracted. As soon as the slightest gap appears, he will strike and put an end to it. He sharply turned to Anna, his voice sharpened with anxiety, and demanded how long she intended to stand there. Did she want to die? She replied, "Of course." No. Christopher turned to Max and sternly ordered a retreat. For someone unarmed like him, it was too dangerous to stand close to the front line, so it was better to support them with magic from the rear. Career, Max immediately confirms the order. Anna and Christopher summon weapons, steel forms in their hands. They step forward with determination and warn Bauk, "Do not underestimate us." Lulis tilts his head and asks what kind of magic this is at all. Christopher frowns at such audacity and sharply cuts off that they would never tell him. Bauk, of course, is not worried. He doesn't need to be. Only a saint can defeat the Demon King, but Christopher knows what Bauk does not. The game revealed one weakness that even non-saints can exploit. The Demon King is vulnerable to silver. He asks again what they intend to do with those pathetic daggers. Christopher raises his sword, the silver on the blade shines sharply, and he says once again that he warned not to underestimate them. He calls his M. He orders his men to gather around him, then entrusts Anna to heal Lucina and Max to cover from the rear. Duke smiles as if nothing happened, says there is plenty of time to dismember and exterminate them. Anna begins. She begins to run, her breath catches, thoughts race. She cannot believe she was so shocked that she completely stopped thinking. She only asks Lucina to wait. She will heal her with their healing magic. Anna in the game was not only arrogant but completely incapable. Her only role was purely plot-related, to bring the heroine and her love interests closer. When the attack happened, she could only cry in the corner. Moreover, she was a rare villainous stupid and completely unable to read the situation. But her life was turned upside down when a Sakura Anna was reborn in her body. With hope to challenge the Demon King, she studied and searched day by day how to strengthen the kingdom. And although generally mediocre, she devoted herself to hard training to become better where she could. Both limited transfer and transmutation were her unique spells. Even having the knowledge and imagination of a modern Japanese woman, she created her spells only through relentless magical research. In this world, there was no magic yet that could quickly heal wounds and illnesses. The power of the saints would eventually gain healing properties, but this would only be known in the second half of the story. And by then great conflicts would have already erupted, so a real effective method of healing was needed. And as a result of her efforts, she created her own healing magic that reproduces the miracles of modern medicine. Anna instantly activates her healing magic. Her hands rush and work quickly to heal Lucina. A torn wound from a broadsword strike. The injured must be urgently prepared for surgery. The air around them is sterilized by her spell. The instruments in the operating area prepare themselves. But when Anna returns, she returns to examine the wound, and her eyes widen. Something is wrong, terribly wrong. Incorrect. Lucina's father calls her anxiously, asks if everything is all right, but Anna barely hears him. She remembers this very clearly. Obviously, Lucina was struck in the back by the Demon King's sword. She saw it, felt the blow through her magic, but now she is completely fine, nothing life-threatening. There isn't even a cut. Yes, that force threw her a good distance, but she came out without a single scratch. Nothing. Despite all the strange magic of the city, she is completely, inexplicably unharmed. Buick nods indifferently with a slight smile and says the girl survived. He will kill her when everyone else dies. Anna's face twists with rage. What did he just say? Her voice trembles as she asks him what in his opinion human life is. Power gathers around her and she utters her magic. Star convergent, 0 stars cry. Crack. Duke assumes that this is her most powerful attack, a magical strike imbued with silver properties. He admits for an attack it's perfect, but in reality it gives nothing. He knows how to give credit. He praises her for remembering the rise of the silver element, for humanity's stubborn refusal to forget its only weakness. But at the end, he says, it doesn't matter what magic they use or what silver weapons they wield. The only conclusion this week is death, and it's the first time. Next to him, Christopher and Anna look truly broken, but suddenly when Bauk raises the sword, he freezes and looks at the places where his magic passed through her. This can't be. Such a level of magic is impossible. Maybe. Christopher looks in disbelief. Realization strikes him. This is silver magic, the silver magic of the awakened saint. When did she touch him? He should have felt magic of such power instantly. But he was too focused on controlling this body, completely consumed by it, and did not notice the state of the sword. He looks around in shock, suddenly alert, and begins to search. Is this saint among them? Is she hiding among these people? He doesn't know. He doesn't feel her presence. But he tightens the sword and swings again. Blades clash with the Demon King's blade, sparks of silver strike against darkness. The Demon King silently curses if this continues, the sword in which his consciousness lives. Crack. Retreat, break, throw him off. He has already poured most of his magical energy into this, yet he still cannot dispel the sword of holy power. The saint herself cannot be felt anywhere, so this is only a remnant, an echo of her power. And for some manifestation of her might to cause such chaos in his body, she must have cast. She created this magic with boundless devotion, with an oath that lived deep in her heart. What deep feelings indeed! What could she have been thinking uttering that spell? He doesn't even suspect that she did it as a servant for her. Protecting her master was completely natural, and he cannot. I can't believe that this is what defeated him, and yet he cannot press. It is necessary to precisely calculate where exactly he touched the power of the saint. Nothing strange happened in the forest. When he obtained that vessel, nothing suspicious either. On the way to the royal capital, nothing as well. The heir to the throne is not a saint, and that sorceress is not a saint either. Which sharply widens his eyes, Lucina looking at. A glance at the unconscious girl and the memory clicked into place. The saint had long ago defeated him with the protection of holy silver, that blessing which people mistakenly called equipment, although in fact it is closer to a sacred enhancement that can take any form, not just clothing. He clenched. He grabbed his hair in despair, insisting that she is not a saint. He is sure of this, but the holy silver still protects her. Obviously, this protection was worn by 3 different people. His quiet blessing is still felt among them. He lowers his gaze. He looked down at his weapon. Now it is only half a sword. Where did the other part go? Until he notices Christopher standing firm with a raised blade and realizes that, lost in thought, he left himself completely open. Suddenly, black smoke bursts from his body, thick and suffocating. Christopher jumps back in shock, and Anna, recognizing the concentrated miasma, shouts for him not to inhale it. This made Christopher sharply respond that they are trapped inside the barrier, and there is no way to avoid it. Outside, Lucina's father is in panic because of the spreading black fog. Banging. He was pounding the barrier with his fists and shouting at his daughter until his despair reaches its peak, and the barrier shatters as soon as it cracks. The miasma instantly bursts away. They were thrown outside, desperately trying to escape. Lucia. Diana's parents run inside to hug her and Christopher. Christopher catches his breath and looks at the fallen buke next to the blade of pure silver. Treacherous. Meanwhile, the Demon King, reduced to a cloud of black miasma, spins in panic. If he remains like this, his consciousness will scatter across the world's negative emotions, so he must be reincarnated again. He immediately needs a new host. A human won't do. Humans have too strong an ego, insects or rats are too weak, and suitable things like the holy silver sword are extremely rare when Suddenly he notices a dog without. Without hesitation, he rushed forward and enveloped the creature. And relief washed over him as the body accepted him. Now he settled into this tiny form. He is stunned. He feels something like amusement. The stubborn will of this creature is strangely close to him, and he wonders if they are much more compatible than he ever expected. He is a demon. The Demon King is the embodiment of all the world's negative emotions, but he cannot understand the gratitude expressed by his host. What a happiness for a dog's nose! It caught the scent of a certain person in the air, and there is no doubt this is the estate of that girl. She should still be in the castle, so now is the perfect chance to uncover the truth about that saint. As he felt, inside the estate there is only one living soul, and with little magic at that. He enters the room where the girl sent him, the one where her presence should be most felt, but he does not sense her. I feel the presence of the saint. Maybe the clue is hidden right here. Ah. This helpless person comes here. Killing her would be easy, but there is a chance she knows something. Celeste says that he was the one who made a mess in her lady's chambers. Depth. The Demon King thinks that by washing her brain a little, she will spit out everything she knows, but he pauses. This is where the magic lies. Her holy sorcery like silver. He looks at her with absolute distrust. She is a saint as long as she is watching. He got angry and demands, what did he do? He thinks to himself, shouldn't she have at least a little magic? He didn't even feel enough magic in her to name even the letter M in the word magic. But the Demon King did not know Melody was skilled at hiding her magical abilities. She could completely suppress any traces of magic if the situation did not require it. She gets so angry that even the Demon King himself does not notice it at that moment. She, enraged, grabs him and insists she will not let go. Meanwhile, Christopher collapses onto the bed, mumbling about how tired he is. Anna indifferently remarks that it was a good workout. He blinks and he froze with surprise and straightened up, not understanding where she had come from. She easily replied that she had used the secret passage. He asks her to appear only when he is in the room. She replies that of course he needs time to hide his dubious collections. He frowns and ends. She insists she has nothing to hide, smiles slyly and teases. She could even arrange an official visit, but notes that if anyone found out she visited the crown prince so late at night, their marriage would be practically guaranteed, and he shook his head and muttered that he would forever be indebted to her for such care. After a short pause, he asks about Lucina, inquiring what the doctor said. She stops. She says that even the doctor could not understand what happened to her, and adds that all the more. Strangely, Lucina had no chance of surviving after the Demon King's attack. She glances at the parrots she has already checked, but sees that they are still traumatized by the horror and can only offer some kind of submission that is alien to them. You understand, he says, that it is completely natural the parents are so shocked because they saw their daughter killed right before their eyes. After all, it definitely had some connection to the saint, didn't it? Anna replies that at least now it can be asserted. Lucina is not that saint, her magical power is very limited. And the saint from the game, on the contrary, entered the academy with much higher magical power. Power, at least that was the game she had ever. Since the game world underwent sterilization, they worked long and hard, preparing all sorts of things in anticipation of what was to happen, but as soon as the first official event began, everything went against the game's plot, and there was still the demon Kinjivrion wondered what finally happened to him. Was he sealed again? But his sword, the repository of his soul, was damaged. The game ended this event with the awakening of the heroine's amazing holy power, but that was the end of it. Anna suddenly remembered and told him before she forgot. She informed him that the Lutherberg couple had asked for permission for their maid to come and take care of Lucina. Christopher said he saw nothing wrong with that. And how? He asks if they had been to the ball accompanied by their servants. She replies that she remembers only one maid worked in their house. He says in surprise, only one. And it becomes clear they are really in financial trouble. But he had to admit, Lucina's dress was quite decent, she did not look poor at all, and she was naturally sweet and beautiful, and to complete the picture she was accompanied by Maxwell. Also, he exclaims, the word attractive doesn't even describe her. It would not be an exaggeration to say that she attracted the most attention at this year's ball, and Anna admits that there is truth in this, but she cannot. She cannot help but notice strange things. If this girl shines so brightly at the ball, wouldn't she be one of the main heroines of the game? But she does not recall the appearance of such a sweet girl in the game at all, and suddenly catches herself thinking, who is she really? Although she had heard this name before, where exactly? Christopher says he is infinitely glad Lucina is finally safe. If she had really died in that trial, it would have been a real tragedy for the world. Anna sharply raised her head, her eyes widened in shock. Here it is. She understood who Lucina really is. She is a fallen girl. How could this have happened? Does she now have to recognize her when she has become so sweet? Christopher asks her what she means by fallen maiden. She says that Lucina was originally supposed to be one of the heroine's enemies. At the ball, she was so different that memory simply did not add two and two. They were together. She eventually succumbed to the Demon King, fought, was defeated by the heroine's squad, and then killed by the Demon King himself. This was the original plotline of the fallen maiden Lucina, and below is an excerpt from the book that came with the game. Lucina blamed herself for the previous maid quitting. No one responded to her advertisement. She didn't even have time to answer her parents. Her hands were tied between managing the estate and admission troubles at the academy. If it were only because of the workload, she would have endured, but another burden weighed on her soul: the police. People around poured malice and outright contempt and disdain on her. Because of this, she developed a strong inferiority complex due to her position. Parents calmed her down when they could, but their love no longer reached their daughter. Those she called friends gradually distanced themselves. Without a partner, hopes for the spring ball shattered. Why, and dark feelings only grew. Looking at the main heroine, she began to feel that she was being treated unfairly. Christopher understood how the Demon King possessed her and turned her against the heroine. She was even tragically killed later, which is too cruel. Anna says that none of this was in the game itself. It is all just additional backstory told in several accompanying books. In the game, she only appeared as a mini-boss for the hero. But it was in this battle that the heroine felt the full weight of her duties as a saint. Lucina was the first and only bearer of the Demon King. She was mocked, killed, and sacrificed. Christopher sharply responds to such an important person, and she only remembers her now. Anna has no excuses, but she wants him to understand. In reality, she looked completely different than in the game. Her appearance is not immediately recognizable, but there is another way. Even stranger, the fallen maiden was not at the spring ball. Could she really be that Lucina they hung out with? In the game, the real Lucina experienced completely different fates. In an elegant dress that earned her the nickname Fairy Princess, she was accompanied by Maxwell, a scene that was not in the game itself. When the ball was attacked, she was pushed into the place of the missing heroine, but she emerged unharmed. And it seems as if the entire script was rewritten to best serve Lucina. Thanks for watching, see you next time. She thinks this cannot be true, and asks Christopher if Lucina could be a shapeshifter like them, but Christopher is already asleep, she whispered. How could he fall asleep in the middle of such an important revelation? But then she hears. Here is another a lullaby. Music is coming from outside. Even though she had already sealed the sound with her magic. As if led by a melody, she steps lightly and soon finds herself on the terrace. The darkness of the night was flooded by countless streams of pure silver. Silver and droplets fell from the stream like snow, these particles. seemed as if they were made of pure magic, and even this unnatural drowsiness was caused by that light. An incredible amount of pure silver magic spread around. Only one could be behind this. It was the power of the saint already. At the limit of her strength, she can no longer maintain control and like all the others before her, she eventually gives in to sleep. A bankrupt noblewoman arrived from Lutherburg to undergo the admission procedure. The teacher, just as the rumors said, her dress touched the boundary of what was unacceptable for a noble person. She was a disgrace to all who had to study with her at the academy and this. And it was not only because of the clothes, her hair, skin, all of it only added to the disgrace. And yet she dared to call herself noble. The other students whispered among themselves. Lucina could not shake the doubt whether she was truly the daughter of a count. Even the dress of a merchant's daughter nearby seemed much better. She reminded herself that this was not the first time she was mocked because of her tarnished status. Everything was fine. She could endure it, but one girl even shouted after her. "Aren't you ashamed? Do you really think that in those clothes you can be considered noble even a little?" Lucina blushed and got confused when asked if she would go to the spring ball. She had been waiting for it so much. Suddenly she blurted out, "No, I will not go." It was a lie. Deep down she wanted to go, but she could no longer endure the mockery and did not want to be looked down upon. Meanwhile, her father was being scolded by other nobles. They said that lately mistakes had been accumulating in his work. She listened. Standing behind the door and listening to him constantly apologizing, her mother rushed to her and hugged her, quietly whispering that he was trying to hide his mistakes by criminal means. Before she arrived in the capital, her life here was not bad. Here she was completely alone. There was no one around to help her. Her mind fled. The wine flowed to the main heroine, although they were both daughters of counts. Why were they so different? It annoyed her terribly. She was jealous. It was unfair. But suddenly the voice of the demon king reached her, saying how exquisite the tears of envy were. That would make her the perfect pawn. At that moment the fallen maiden became the witch of envy, who hated the saint hellishly. Her friends were playing a game. One of them said he felt sorry for Lucina. She did not deserve such an end. Anna quickly agreed and turned to Christopher. Did he, thinking not pity her? He replied that it was just a game and accused Anna of foolish bets. No wonder he lost to a Kiko from the 3rd grade. He got angry and warned her not to start. Anna then. He suddenly changed the subject and asked where the 5th romantic character was in the game. After all, there were 5 vows. He answered that he knew. The 5th was the demon king. She frowned at him, asking if he was stupid or really didn't understand anything. She explained, did he know? Did he know why the place where the demon king was sealed was called Scourge, the Great Forest of Vanargand? He said he didn't know. She explained that this name was connected to a mythical creature, and their friend asked if he had heard of Fenrir from Scandinavian mythology. The main thing was to understand. The demon king was modeled after Fenrir, so he was shown as a wolf, and a wolf could not possibly become an object of love. She reminded him that he had seen them play this game so many times. Why hadn't it dawned on him? He sharply replied that autumn games did not interest him. Meanwhile, the dog peacefully sleeps in Celeste's arms. She gently strokes her. She ran her fingers through his fur, admiring how soundly he was sleeping, and then She realizes that the young lady and her parents are going to be late tonight. She just grabbed him as he was writhing with all his might, making him understand that escape was impossible. She washed him but accidentally washed away part of his magic. He weakened. And for the demon king, this was a real horror. But Celeste is satisfied. His fur shines brightly after washing. His magic. Magic held that dirt, but it is her magic that washes him clean. Then she offers him some food. She feels that he is probably hungry, she says. He suspects that if he had come to their house just to eat, he could have gone straight to the kitchen, but obviously that's how he is used to. The overwhelming pleasure which pierced him from the pure fur and tasty food drowned out the thoughts of the demon king. He had never felt like this before. The door opens, and Celeste's double enters. She says the cleaning is done and asks how she is doing there, and Celeste replies, apparently he went to bed full. Her partner wonders what to do with the puppy, and she tensely prepares for a reprimand, but since the room spot clean, there is no reason to scold, and suddenly a thought flashed. She is struck by the picture. A young lady and a puppy are happily playing in the garden, and they stand aside and watch them closely. Her interlocutor's eyes sparkled with admiration. Wonderful, she said. She says she could not have imagined that her first task as a nanny was to take care of a puppy. Suddenly the puppy stirred and woke up, and Celeste wonders, why every time just as he is about to fall asleep does he suddenly wake himself up? He was already barely holding on from fatigue and sleep, but that could not be. Or is he afraid to fall asleep? Has he ever been attacked while he was sleeping? No one can keep their eyes open forever. His body now needs real rest above all else. There is no choice left. She will just use a bit of magic. Although she used part of her power, she sees that he still forcibly wakes up, so she decides to give him a little more energy. The demon lord slowly falls asleep, and only one thought spins in his head. This is the power of the saint. In her dream, Celeste sees a girl leaning against an unfamiliar tree trunk. A huge wolf sprawls on her knees, its warmth soothes and balances her, and a soft and gentle rabbit curls up nearby. They say dreams are a way to organize and comprehend past memories and experiences, so this forest must be the very place she usually goes to get groceries. She looks at the wolf and wonders if it is the puppy that was just with the girls. Quietly thanks Alice, saying, she said she would never have achieved this because she swore to fight and defeat the Demon King to the very end. But she fulfilled the true role of the saint and is sincerely grateful for finally giving the Demon King a peaceful sleep. Celeste wonders what she is even talking about, while the girl tells her the Demon King, the progenitor of darkness himself, is a cup that absorbs all darkness. Like the Grail, he is a being beyond the powers of the world, who accepts and gathers the darkness of the entire world within himself. In this world, magic is born from the phenomenon of a being's emotions. This is seen during the dance of Melody and the young lady. When Melody was bursting with joy and happiness, particles of light emerged from her. But a person does not live only by bright feelings. Imagine a man who leaves a relationship for the happiness of his beloved and calmly accepts it. Where do his suppressed desires, his envy, and hatred for the one who took the place where he once stood go? Negative emotions that have nowhere to go will burst into the world as dark magic and merge into one soul. This is the true nature of the Demon King, a fusion of dark energy cast off by all beings, including humans. That is why the Demon King has no physical body. He can manifest form only through magic. His desperate search for bodies in the present time was a consequence of a seal imposed by the previous saint, which did not allow dark magic to accumulate and hold his essence. And the girl tells her that the saint, the maiden of sacred light, has the task of healing and purifying the dark energy accumulated in the Demon King's cup and returning it to the natural world. The seal she placed blocked the Grail cup and did not allow it to fulfill its purpose. So the dark energy ran wild in the world, and only when monsters and demonic zones began to appear around did she finally realize her true duties. She is glad that she did not look at the diary she left behind in advance. With the powers granted to her, destroying the Demon King is not a problem, but then the world would forever lose its cup that collects dark magic. Celeste is confused. What diary is this? She is not sure. It looks like an exposition for a story or a game. The previous saint further says that to heal the Demon King, a sincere heart without any lies is needed. Fortunately, she did not repeat the same mistake. Thanks to Celeste's amazing power and skill, the remnants of the previous saint who were sealed together with the Demon King were able to resurface again even for a moment, and it was precisely thanks to Celeste that she managed to accomplish that little thing she could not do so long ago, the future and everything ahead. She leaves them in the proper hands of the true Saint Celeste Vandy. She wonders how does she know her real name, what was said earlier. Saint quietly says that she is truly kind, and this makes her ponder. What kind of dream is this anyway? The previous saint tells her that if this world is truly fictional, then Celeste must be its main heroine. She is firmly convinced of this. Then she thanks her once again and says she is proud of her for fulfilling her true duties of her own free will. Celeste, as always confused, asks what she means by main heroine, and what about the saint herself? She looks sincere. She is confused all the time, even placing her hand on her chest, and insists that she is only a servant of the Ludeberg house, but the dream shatters in a foreign land. Suddenly, Celeste sharply comes to her senses and is already standing. She wonders if she dozed off without noticing and feels a slight tug at her skirt. She clutches her shirt and looks down. A puppy has latched onto her. Wasn't its fur completely silvery last night? Now black spots mark one ear, tail, and paw. How strange. Last night she carefully washed it. This night realization hit her. It's already mornings. She rushes to the window, panic rising in her chest. Last night she was supposed to meet the family, but no one has returned yet. She runs outside and sees. She comes across a man there, bent over. He explains everything and her panic jumps. She demands to know, if something so serious happened, why didn't he inform her immediately? He, still embarrassed, replies that he fell asleep without even noticing. This is negligence in the performance of his official duties, it is said. Said the criminal. Then Celeste rushed to the coachman but found that he was also asleep. Last night the stranger current. The entire royal capital simultaneously fell asleep and immediately woke up, and Melody, of course, did not even suspect. Lucina's face brightens as soon as she sees Celeste. She is happy that she finally came. Celeste approaches closer and says that on the way she heard that Lucina was not injured, but still asks if she really feels well. Lucina nods and insists that she is completely fine. She says that everything is fine but slightly presses her lips and explains. Although she feels better, her mother does not allow her to get out of bed. The mother immediately replies that of course she will not allow it. Lucina was unconscious all night. Celeste gives a shy smile and says that unfortunately she agrees with the lady on this matter. Lucina continues. She still insists that she feels well, but Celeste gently changes the subject and says that for now it is better to change her clothes. She brought a fresh set of clothes for her. Celeste. Then she breaks off the phrase halfway and suddenly freezes with anxiety when her gaze falls on a small puppy near her feet. Panic sounds in her voice, she asked when he managed to follow her all the way here. Lucina quickly picks up the puppy, her face softens with genuine joy. She exclaims how cute he is, and then asks why Celeste has a puppy with her. Celeste calmly says that he came to the residence last night hungry. Seeing how thin and weak he was, she fed him and let him rest, then adds. Celeste adds that if possible, she would like to take him into their family. Lucina immediately enthusiastically says that it is a wonderful idea, but their mother asks if they have enough money to cover his expenses, especially for food. Celeste assures that the extra meat from her hunts is more than enough to feed him. Lucina agrees giving up the little one now would be too painful, so she asks her mother if they can keep him. The mother eventually relents, saying, she says there is nothing to be done, reminds both that from now on they must take good care of him, then suggests starting by giving him a suitable name and asks Lucina if she has any ideas. Lucina turns to Celeste and asks what she thinks. Celeste ponders. She was going through names, but suddenly the image of the previous saint who called him Grail flashed through her mind, and before she could realize it, the name slipped from her lips. She returned to reality when Lucina exclaimed excitedly that Grail sounded perfect. Her mother leaves them to finish the rest of the preparations. Lucina gets up. She apologized for not watching the dress while Celeste carefully examined the damaged fabric, but she quietly assured her there was no need to apologize. She was simply grateful that Lucina was unharmed. Tiana asks if the dress can be repaired, and Celeste replies that with such severe damage it is easier to sew it anew. Even the protective magic woven into it has almost disappeared. It asks Lucien to allow it to dispel the last traces. Celeste adds, actually, I should be the one apologizing. She explains that she believed she had infused the dress with so much magic that Lucina would be completely safiven if the entire ballroom was torn apart and not a speck of ash remained. But who could have thought that everything would collapse from a single sword strike? Celeste exhales simply relieved. Lucina stands before her alive and unharmed, that's all. Suddenly there is a knock at the door. Anna stands outside and waits. Patience is at its limit. This needs to be confirmed. The girl who was supposed to be absent instead drew all the attention during the escort to the ball. Maxwell, who was considered indifferent to women, even protected the crown prince during the attack and came out almost unscathed. So you can't deny it, all the plot changes definitely revolve around Lucina. Maybe she really is another reincarnated one just like them. Anna froze when her gaze fell on Celeste's raven-black hair, and eyes as black as night. Such a combination is extremely rare in this world. Why does it seem to her as if she has seen her somewhere before? Anna asks her name. Celeste says she is a humble servant in this house and her name is Melody Wave. Anna thought that maybe she was some other character in the game whom she forgot, but it seems not. This name means nothing to her at all. She politely smiled at Lucina, apologizing for appearing so suddenly and without warning, and explained that, having learned that Lucina would soon leave, she wanted to manage to visit her before the departure. Lucina responds with a smile and says not to worry about the sudden visit, she is simply glad that Anna is here. As always, Anna catches herself thinking that Lucina is almost painfully sweet, and the maid goes out to prepare tea. Leaving them alone, Anna realizes this is her chance. Her expression. Russian becomes serious and decides to speak directly in Japanese. She asks if Lucina was also Japanese before reincarnation. Lucina blinks embarrassedly and asks if Anna is trying to say something. Anna continues. Address her in Japanese and ask her to respond in the same language if she really was Japanese once. Lucina, still confused, quietly apologizes. It seems to her that Anna is speaking some foreign language which she does not understand at her level, so she asks forgiveness for not being able to keep up. For a moment, Anna thinks that Lucina is pretending not to understand Japanese, but the innocence on her face is too sincere. She really has no idea what Anna is talking about, and that means. So Anna was mistaken. Trying a different approach, Anna asks if, I wonder if Lucina has ever heard of the Silver Saint or the Five Vows. Celeste, who was quietly serving tea, freezes when Lucina asks if she knows anything about the Silver Saint. Celeste looks equally confused. Lucina concluded what it means none of them have reincarnated. If they are not carnators and know nothing about the game, then why? Anna changes the subject and asks about the dress Lucina wore last night. She recalls that in Lucina's story there was no dress for the ball, so how does she now have such a beauty? Lucina instantly lit up and explained that Melody sewed it for her. It took a lot of work. Melody had to rip apart 2 old dresses of Lucina's, clean the fabric, and remake all the material. But in the end it turned out something beautiful. Lucina beams with pride and says that Melody is incredible. She is now a proud new maid who takes the place of the previous one. Anna finds this very strange. If she is not mistaken, Lucina's fall happened because her previous maid retired too early, and there was no word at all about the new maid, and that means. So Lucina, whom they see now, is the result of Melody's actions. She carefully sewed and prepared the dress so that Lucina looked her best, as if created only to serve and help her. Anna then says, during the attack she remembered that the dress was completely torn, and she herself was miraculously intact, not even a scratch. and asks if she has any idea why that happened. From the way Lucina's face fell, Anna instantly guesses she has some idea, doesn't she? Lucina blurts Melody cast a protective spell on her dress of such power that it would have remained unharmed even if the entire ball had been turned to ashes and not a single crumb remained. Again, the Melody thinks Anna, protective spells exist, but only a saint could cast one of such power. Yet Lucina does not seem like a liar. At least she sincerely believed in the power of the melodic spell. She asks Lucina if she can look at the dress, when Lucina agrees. Everything depends on her. She uses her unique spell to focus her gaze on the flow of magic, thereby allowing her to see the structures and remnants of the cast spell even if someone tries to hide them. Erasing all traces is practically impossible. But she did not feel any magic at all, neither from this dress nor from Melody herself, no matter what she did. She does not even suspect that Melody restrains her magic every day so strongly that even the Demon King could not detect it. The same applied to the magic on the dress. Having dispelled the charms just moments ago, she completely erased all traces of magic that would normally remain. If Anna had come 5 minutes earlier, everything would have turned out very differently. Anna tells Melody that she told Anna about the spell she cast and asks if that was all right. Celeste is embarrassed and admits that she really should not have called such a trifle magic. Anna is disappointed that ultimately nothing was clarified, but then she straightens up and reproachfully says, "Where are your manners?" Since she came as a guest but instead was interrogated with difficult questions and asked how she feels if anything hurts her. She also explains to Lucina that the crown prince was supposed to be here at first, but he is too busy, so he should be excused. Lucina just smiles and says she would never have thought to ask for more. Only a day has passed since the attack. He will definitely be buried in paperwork. Anna sincerely thanks her for understanding and for saving the heir to the throne, but Lucina insists she is the one who should be thanked. Anna notes that they met only yesterday, and Lucina agrees, quietly adding that without the crown princess she wouldn't be here at all. It was the prince's policy that allowed her to meet Melody at all. For a moment Anna freezes, the cup slips from her fingers and crashes sharply to the floor. The regular carriage service was an idea that Christopher and Anna came up with at 7 years old, and since then it has never stopped. Since then, if it was in the game, then depending on the player's choice, there are bad endings where the kingdom or neighboring countries turn to ruins from monsters and the Demon King's army. When the carriage service started working, goods and services began to move much more freely, and the kingdom of Theolos became much more stable than in the game. But it wasn't just about the carriages, they introduced a bunch of policies and plans to strengthen the economy and avoid any bad endings. And Lucina was saved from trouble thanks to the servant Melody. And Melody got to the capital on time precisely because of the regular carriage service. So essentially Lucina was pulled out of ruin through regular carriage inspections. She always deeply believed that when the time came, the events of the world would unfold according to the story, and even if they did nothing, everything would still follow the game's plot. But the butterfly effect is real. Even the smallest detail can trigger a chain of events that grows into a catastrophe of incredible scale. The scale are those who initiate changes in the game's plot. She suddenly apologizes and rushes away, leaving Lucina confused. Why did the story diverge so sharply, and why did no one notice it before? One way or another, Anna is no longer the Anne-Marie from this game. She could no longer play the role of a foolish, selfish, and narcissistic villainess who became the heir to the throne's fiancé. The fact that she was merely a contender for Christopher's hand was always from her own selfish motives, and both regained their memory 9 years before the game was supposed to start. Perhaps it was then that the plot began to go differently. The missing hero and the mysterious appearance of another Cecilia at the ball, Lucina went out and still skated even though she received a direct blow from the Demon King. And the sword that previously sealed him was destroyed. None of this was in any playthrough of the game. Isn't all this the result of the domino effect they triggered? Meanwhile, all this actually happened because of one maid who neglected the plot and didn't even realize she herself was a sin. But Anna couldn't have known that, right? Anna feels that the chances of saving the story are small, but at least hopes to get something useful from Bauk. At first he was supposed to escape after the attack, not sit behind bars in this building as he does now. He definitely knows much more than any of them. Anna finds Christopher and Mac in the corridor and immediately asks why they are wandering here and where the attacker is. Christopher explains that the attacker disappeared. When they arrived, the room was empty and even his sword was gone. None of them knows where he could have gone, overwhelmed. Anna, irritated, falls to her knees and theatrically waving her hands exclaims that she has had enough and demands, "Why does the story move on its own?" Meanwhile, Lucina, a little worried, asks her father, who came to visit her, if it is really appropriate for him to be here. She wonders if the Prime Minister's office is not completely overwhelmed with work after last night. But the father is actually not that overwhelmed. The father firmly assures her that escorting is his duty, and he could not ignore the task of protecting the celebrated heroine princess, who was appointed to guard the heir to the throne. Lucina pronounces this title aloud. Heroine princess? To clarify, her mother says that at the ball she was called a fairy princess, and the father adds that the prime minister himself praised her beauty and courage, calling her a heroine princess. They joke that the nickname will soon spread throughout the Royal Academy, and this causes Celeste a small happy smile. Later. So in the carriage on the way home, Lucina admires the luxurious interior and says that only because of such luxury was it worth trying and protecting the prince. Her father like. But he sharply interrupts. No reward or honor is worth risking her life, and he is grateful that she was not harmed. A sudden rumble shook the carriage, and Lucina instantly picked up the dog, insisting that it was he, not her, who made that sound. Dad smiled and said that since it was almost noon, he was starting to get hungry, so he suggested eating as soon as they returned home. Lucina noticed that Melody would need some time to get ready, but her father reassured her. The three of them could pass the time in conversation, and this brought her true joy. The carriage stops in front of her house, and Lucina bitterly recalls how this place was once lonely and abandoned. She knew it as the Phantom Mansion, but now both of them are gone. Both her parents are present in a beautiful villa, accompanied by Melody and the Grail. And this contrast fills her with quiet joy since Melody appeared and became everything to them. Many things have changed for the better. Not only the estate, their dishes, and her dresses, but also that thanks to her she could still be friends with Beatrice and Milyar. Yara, it was thanks to her that she got into the spring ball, and somehow she feels that she met several very important people, so she is wildly looking forward to what will happen next at school. A sudden surge of gratitude overwhelmed Lucina, and she sincerely thanks her for everything. Although Celeste does not quite understand why, Lucina shrugs and says there is nothing here. Without reason, I head home, even if there is no one there to create. Greet them, but their steps freeze at the delicious smell wafting from the house. The door opens, Celeste's double warmly welcomes them and with a smile says that their dishes are already prepared and waiting. Lucina. Lucina rushed to hug her, but Celeste gently pulled her back, insisting that a simple maid is not hugged like that. Lucina brushed off the objections, and declaring that as the daughter of this house she commands, demanded that Celeste allow her to hug as much as her heart desires. Intention, Celeste asks where she learned to speak like that and insists on being let go, but the Lucanic retorts that accepting hugs is part of her duties since she is the maid who manages all the household affairs, so all the work, even this, lies on her shoulders. Responsibility. Celeste mutters in protest that no part of a maid's work should actually require such things. Meanwhile, Christopher admits that he never would have thought their actions truly changed the course of history. Anna adds that after everything that happened, nothing can be fixed anymore, and perhaps these very events were necessary to prevent something even worse. Christopher admits that although he understands this, he still feels as if their efforts were in vain. Anna calms him down, says she understands his disappointment, but reminds him there's no use crying over spilled milk. Now it's important to review their plans for the future. Because whatever happens, their actions have already changed the course of events, and at least they managed to save Lucina from tragedy. Christopher admits that she is right, but he cannot come to terms with the thought of a world in which Lucina had to die. Anna agrees, adds that the world would be poorer without such an incredible girl, and says that as soon as school starts, she will do everything so that Lucina and she become inseparable. Christopher teases, if that is their goal, will he allow her to become one of his bride candidates? Anna explodes, scolding him for the very idea of a love triangle with his childhood friend, where he has to compete for Lucina's affection. Christopher asks what they should do now, and Anna says that plans for the future are still uncertain. And they have deviated so much from the original plot that it seems as if they are improvising without a script at all. Celeste looks embarrassed and asks if the Royal Academy is really turning into a boarding school. Lucina confirms with a joyful sparkle in her voice that it is true. After the recent attack, the Academy seems to finally take student safety seriously. And since Celeste will now stay at the school, they will have to prepare properly for this. That is why Lucina says she will go with her to the campus. The decision to turn the academy into a boarding school was made suddenly, so a 2-month break was announced for the construction of dormitories. Later, pushing a cart into the ladies' room, she asked if a new maid had already been chosen, and the lady replied that the recruitment is still ongoing, but it would be best to find one before the academy reopens. The mistress admits that they will not be able to offer a high salary, although there is still some time before they absolutely have to hire a new servant. Lucina begins to say that if it is only temporary, she probably could, but suddenly breaks off the sentence halfway. Celeste immediately notices this and asks if something is wrong. Lucina smiles innocently and admits that she actually wants to try on the maid's uniform. Celeste smiles in response and gently says, "No, I won't allow it." Lucina pouts like a child and immediately demands to know why. Celeste calmly asks why she even needs to wear it. Lucina pauses for a moment and honestly replies that simply because it is cute, simple, but neat. At first glance it does not catch the eye, but when Melody puts it on her, Lucina finds herself looking without noticing. Celeste cannot help but smile at the compliment and says that she is pleased to hear praise of the form. However, she quickly adds that the maid's uniform is her battle gear. Even if the lady wishes it, anyone who is not a maid has no right to wear it. Lucina instantly and decisively says that if that is the rule, the decision is obvious. She turns to her father and seeing her look her. Her father raises an eyebrow and asks if she really wants to wear the maid's uniform that much. Lucina decisively answers yes. The father nods thoughtfully, then indifferently announces that if so she can simply become a maid. Celeste slowly narrows her eyes and throws him a sharp look, but he pays no attention and declares that starting tomorrow, Lucina will become a maid in the house for one day. Her mother claps her hands in delight and says that it is wonderful. She really wants to see Lucina in a maid's costume, since Lucina looks charming in any outfit. And so, the matter is settled. Celeste is asked to allow Lucina to work just one day as a maid, and thus begins her one-day adventure. The next morning, Celeste gently wakes her with a smile. Lucina groans and yawns, grumbling that it is still too early, but Celeste says there is still much work and everything must be done before the master wakes up. Celeste hands her tea. The first task of the day for Lucina as soon as she gets out of bed is to enjoy a cup of tea, but as soon as she takes a sip, her eyes widen in surprise. The tea really tastes different than usual. Celeste explained that today she tried to make royal milk tea, and Lucina immediately lit up, said it sounded very luxurious and sincerely thanked her, because she knew that even the brewing method affects the taste, but she could not imagine that milk tea could taste so differently. Interested, she sniffs the cup again and thinks that Celeste really knows her tea well. Celeste gently says it is time to change clothes and hands her the ready uniform. Lucina freezes when she sees it. This uniform looks different from the one she is used to seeing. Celeste smiles and explains that today she will work as a housemaid. This is her morning set. The housemaid's work is usually divided into cleaning and cooking, and in cleaning she is responsible for the general cleanliness of the house. Lucina tilts her head and asks if this means that the maid has different clothes in the morning and in the afternoon. Celeste nodded and said that since they would be cleaning, it was not a big deal if the morning outfit got dirty. Lucina looked at her and noticed that she was in her usual dress, to which Celeste calmly added that she could not appear before the young lady in work clothes. This dress is worn only when serving the master and his family, which includes Lucina. Lucina lowers her gaze to the dress in her hands and mutters that it is not very nice. Celeste gently offers to help her change, but Lucina smiles and shakes her head. Today she is a maid, so she will dress herself. Soon she finishes putting it on and goes out. Celeste looks at her for a moment, blushes a little and smiles, tells Lucina that the uniform suits her very well and then solemnly announces, from now on the young lady will officially serve as a maid in the house until the end of the day. During this time she should be addressed as Miss Lucina, not my lady. And with a slight bow she proclaims that Miss Lucina is now assigned to the roles and duties of household service. At 6 in the morning, Celeste led her through the silence of the estate and seriously explained that until the master wakes up around 8, they need to manage to do several morning tasks. Lucina raised an eyebrow in surprise and asked which ones exactly, and Celeste replied cleaning the master's rooms. The master should never see the servant cleaning, that is why these tasks are always done early in the morning. The dining room, living room, study, bedrooms, and corridors in the front part of the mansion, all of this needs to be cleaned. At the same time, breakfast must be prepared and the master's morning tea brewed. Lucina looks at her, not believing her eyes. She asks if they really have to finish all this in 2 hours. Celeste calmly says yes. Lucina lets out a loud scream and asks if this happens every day. Celeste smiles again and confirms that it does, and Lucina closes her eyes and sighs deeply, thinking how incredible Melody must be. When they enter the dining room, Lucina notices a large box and asks what it is, and Celeste explains that it is a maid's box. It contains all the tools and cleaning supplies they will need for now. She tells Lucina to use it well. As soon as Celeste finishes her tasks and returns, she tells Lucina that she has already cleaned everywhere except the dining room, but when she enters she finds Lucina collapsed on the floor, looking as if she is about to die. Celeste, worried, asks, "Are you okay?" Tired Lucina replies that she has also finished cleaning the dining room. Celeste suggests resting a little. Lucina looks at the clock and realizes that it is already 7. A whole hour has passed. She sighs and says that she hasn't helped at all, and Celeste reassures her. Today she is still just an apprentice, no one expects her to master everything immediately, and Lucina groans at this. Celeste explains that for an apprentice maid the most important thing is sincere, serious attitude. With practice the speed of work will improve, but thoroughness depends on the internal mindset. Apparently Lucina is very cautious and meticulous, and she stops to ask if Celeste really thinks so. Celeste nods but adds that this could become a problem if they continue working in this condition. Lucina looks down and suddenly realizes that she is completely covered in soot. So she asks Celeste if she has spare clothes, and Celeste explains that usually when the uniform is too dirty, the housemaid changes it, but in urgent cases there is another solution. She calmly tells her, "It doesn't matter what time it is, don't panic and clean yourself." She immediately activates emergency washing, and Lucina suddenly feels the dress cleaning itself. The soot simply disappears. Celeste explains that time is short, so they had to take emergency measures and orders to move on without delay. They head to the front entrance and Celeste says, "This area is visible from outside the manor, so it is like the face of the house, therefore it must never look dirty and is one of the most important places to clean." Politely smiling, she tells Lucina that a perfectly clean entrance sends a signal. This house can afford good maids, while Lucina, trembling from head to toe, sweeps in the cold and in a shaky voice asks for a coat. Celeste sharply tells her to endure it. After sweeping and cleaning, Celeste calmly states what to do next: draw water from the well, rub the stairs, and a few more household chores. With each new task, Lucina freezes more and shudders at the thought of endless work, until Celeste sharply tells her to pull herself together. Finally, Celeste announced that only the dining room and the master's morning tea remain. Lucina was still trembling and asked for some hot water. When Celeste gave it to her, she quickly swallowed and clearly sighed with relief, and Celeste politely asked if she could help prepare breakfast, but soon called another housemaid to take care of it. Lucina nervously asks if they are already very close to the time, and Celeste apologizes, says it is her fault because she immediately overloaded with too much work, but assures that everything is fine and asks if she feels better now. Celeste adds that although it was Lady Lucina's first time, they took on too many tasks at once, and she is ashamed of that, but Lucina asks not to worry. She admits that it was not easy, but today she finally understood how hard Celeste works every day. "At least today," she says, "we are equals." Celeste smiles warmly and says she appreciates these kind words. Then she tells her that the time she had been waiting for so long has finally come. In a moment, Lucina appears in another uniform she wanted to try on, shining with joy. Celeste looks at her and smiles broadly, saying that this uniform suits her very well and highlights her charming figure for Celeste. This morning was full of pleasures, and Lucina asks if it really is so, since the morning seemed full of troubles and hard work. Celeste gently shook her head and said that she had actually been waiting for this since last night. Lucina asked what she meant, and Celeste explained. Although it was only one day, she was lucky. It is rare to work together with a colleague. Usually in a noble family, the house is managed by a housekeeper and a senior maid, and the work is divided among chambermaids, parlor maids, kitchen maids, and dishwashers. So each role supports the other and everything works harmoniously. But Celeste herself is a maid who does everything alone, so she had never tried working with another, teaching her and sharing duties. Even if it lasted only a day, she had fun and was very happy. Celeste smiled at Lucina with a bright and sincere smile and thanked her. Lucina looks at her without blinking, as if enchanted, and cannot help but think how sweet Celeste is when she smiles like that. When Lucina freezes like a statue, Celeste asks if everything is all right, and Lucina quickly slaps herself on the cheeks to come to her senses, saying that it is nothing and there is no need to worry. At that moment, another maid approaches and says that the tea is already ready. Lucina immediately says she will bring it, but at that moment Celeste froze in horror. Suddenly she remembered that she forgot to explain something important. Unfortunately, it was already too late. Lucina is going straight to the parents' room with a tray of tea. Without knocking, she opens the door and enters. She stumbles right upon a private, intimate moment of the parents and froze. Then a terrible scream bursts from her throat. Outside, Celeste bows her head with regret. She already knows it is too late. If only she had explained the rules in time. And so, Lucina's one-day experience ended quite abruptly. A few days later, Lucina sternly tells Celeste not to wash her clothes together with the father's clothes anymore. At that time, a girl from a noble family disappeared from the mansion. The maid shuddered and whispered that such a thing hadn't happened for a very long time. Two maids quietly whisper to each other. One says somewhat sadly that Anna has been behaving politely lately. The other hesitates and, shaking her head, replies that she is not sure if that's really good, because Anna told her that she had been very worried recently. Meanwhile, the man asks one of the guards what is going on, and the guard says that they are looking for her now. But usually by this time they would have found her already. The man turned to another maid and asked if she noticed anything while cleaning the young lady's room. The maid shrugged and said she saw absolutely nothing, only wonders how Anna managed to sneak out without anyone guessing. The servants note that Lady Anna really is such a tomboy. Meanwhile, Anna stretches out her arms and walks down the street carefree and satisfied, thinking to herself that she hasn't allowed herself to let loose like this for a long time. The daughter of Marquis Annemarie Victorium, a girl known throughout the kingdom as a siren and the embodiment of the perfect lady. Deep burning crimson hair, sharp jade-green eyes, and a lush, seductive figure that is impossible to forget. Now being an ordinary girl, she enters the neighboring shop. The owner warmly greets her, says that a lot of time has passed, and asks if she wants some freshly squeezed apple juice. Anna replies that he really knows how to make an offer and orders a cup. In this place, the concept of hair dyeing does not exist, so she has not been exposed yet, and such reasoning works perfectly in such a fantasy world. Being a noble has its advantages, but in this world, for a simple high school girl, pretending to be a lady is more of a burden than a joy. She has been looking for such moments for a long time, so she will finally allow herself to rest, because although the life of the Marquis's daughter is familiar to her, she still needs a break. She wonders if the heroine felt exactly like this. The goal for today is not just to rest, Today, the very event from the Autumn game Silver Saint and Five O's must happen if the plot still follows the game. Not used to the life of a noble daughter, the heroine runs away from the Count's house and rushes to the commoner's district. Although the heroine is still missing, they cannot ignore this splendor just because of her absence. Everything starts approximately like this. A man grabs her and hisses, asking what such a young lady is doing here, accusing her of ruining his best clothes and demanding that her parents compensate him. If they don't manage, she will have to come to his house and wash them instead. So that her father doesn't find out, she agrees to go with them, but suddenly she froze. The scene before her was exactly the same as in the game. The men accuse her of ruining their clothes and threaten to call her parents. Heart pounds wildly. The dialogue is word for word, just like that scene from her memory. But why is this happening in real life? And that girl is not the main heroine, right? Her hair is black as night. She tells them that she will immediately wash the clothes, activating her emergency cleaning function. Anna quickly exclaimed, explaining to Celeste why she was standing there and urgently urged her to run. They both run and hide around the corner, and she catches her breath. Anna suddenly realizes that everything up to this moment exactly matches the game.